you very much, honourable members. You may be seated. Honourable Sayed, if I can ask Honourable Dugmore to come to the House. Honourable members can just bear with me. Honourable members, just before we start the debate on vote 9, if you can just bear some indulgence with me. I'm just waiting for the Honourable Dugmore to get back into the House. Thank you. It technically has started. I'm just giving Honourable Dugmore a quick minute just to get back into the House. He's on his way. If you could just bear with me. Apologies. He should have been given notice, and I think... Thank you. There we go. Thank you. Honourable Sayed, you will... Give me a second. Honourable Sayed? You will deal with it?
Yes.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. Thank you. Honourable members, thank you for your indulgence. I'd like to deal with the notice of motion by the Honourable Dugmore, leader of the, I won't say official opposition, leader of the opposition. So order, I've received confirmation from the Secretary that the Honourable Leader of the official opposition has submitted a notice of motion in terms of Rule 151(1) of the Standing Rules at 11:35 this morning. Somebody. Can I ask the honourable members online to put off their devices so that we don't have an echo? In terms of the rules, the notice of motion must be placed on the order paper for Monday, the 5th of December 2022. It's a bit unprecedented to have you, Honourable Sayed, rise in terms of this motion because it's not in your name. Can I assume that Honourable Dugmore is online? We can't move. Honourable Bartman, Honourable Sayed, what I will do is we will proceed with the next order of the day, and I will then deliver my or deliver a further notice on this motion afterwards. If you could ensure that Honourable Dugmore be then. Honourable Bartman?
Honourable Deputy Speaker, thank you. Thank you so much for your indulgence. The Honourable Dugmore had an emergency that he was running late from in terms of his car. If I could then suggest that we move it, he's on his way to the House. If I could suggest that we get to it when he is here, so we start with the budget vote
that is
now,
absolutely
and then thank you.
Fine. Honourable Wartman.
Chair, thank you so much. I note the information that Member Dugmore has moved a notice of motion in terms then of Rule 151, but I also do note that the person who moved the motion, if they wished for us to deal with it in the sitting today, that they must rise on that particular
Correct.
matter. And since Member Dugmore is not here, I do not believe the rules allow for that. Thank you.
They don't, but in the interest of collegiality, I will give it, I will deliver the motion at the end of Environmental Affairs Vote 9. And please ensure that Honourable Dugmore is then in the House for that reason. So that there is no further opportunity for an objection, which is rightly so by any of the members or the acting chief whip. Honourable Okay. Honourable Mseka, would you be so kind as to be part of the presiding officer's chair and take my place? Thank you very much. Thank you, Honourable Sir. I'm going to open then while the Honourable Member makes her way through. We will now begin with the debate on vote 9. I'll ask the Secretary to read the order of the day.
Vote 9, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. I recognise Minister Bradell.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, Honourable Premier, Honourable Members of the Executive, Honourable Members of the House, climate change and the world's inability to respond appropriately to it was identified as the #1 risk to humanity for the next decade and beyond by Global Risk Report 2022. Speaker, we are already experiencing climate change in South Africa and especially in the Western Cape. Our weather patterns are changing. It is getting hotter. We are experiencing more intense droughts and floods. Compounding these challenges is an immigration to the Western Cape by more than 100,000 people per year. This population growth is challenging the ability of our cities and towns to provide basic services, which is adding more pressure on our environment. Honourable House Chair, water security, sewage, waste and air pollution are all aspects of modern civilization. We need to address these and many other environmental and planning issues if we are to keep the planet in a healthy state for future generations. The Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning knows these challenges firsthand. Good work has been done during the past year. Our Berg River Improvement Plan project contributes directly to the Berg River estuary receiving Ramsar status this year as a wetland of international importance. Together with Cape Nature, the department have already cleared 55,300 hectares of alien vegetation. In 2021-2022, a total of 4,975 hectares of Cape Nature's land was cleared of aliens. This is an important work as it will increase the future resilience for climate change. Honourable House Chair, the Western Cape Biodiversity Act was signed into law earlier in November 2021 and will come into effect in a phased manner. Certain sections of the Western Cape Biodiversity Act have come into effect on 15 November 2022. This is an important step towards having a modern environmental management framework that is in step with current realities in the Western Cape, South Africa and globally. Honourable Deputy House Chair, in the context of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, I want to congratulate the Waste Directorate for its Give Dignity project that is supporting female waste entrepreneurs with hygiene products to recognise the important role they play in the waste economy. Our inclusionary housing policy framework was published in November. This will greatly assist local governments and commercial development in shaping our towns and cities for the future. We want to enable people to live closer to their places of work, education and cultural activities. Honourable Deputy House Chair, the Appropriation Bill for the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning sees the original 2022 budget of R568,586,000 being adjusted to R575,592,000. The adjustments reflect 2.7 million for salary increases, 2.312 million for rollover projects, 2.214 million for environmental retention project of revenue retention projects, a saving of 220,000 rand due to the realignment of projects to the next financial year. House Chair, this adds up to adjustments of 7,006,000 rand. This adjustment budget reflects a department that is under severe financial pressure, but still manages to produce and to deliver on its mandate. Speaker, I want to remind this House of my opening statement. Climate change is the #1 global risk facing humanity. The Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning is working at the coalface of this crisis. Let us support them with this important work. And I want to close by thanking the HOD Gerrit Gerber and the whole team for long hours and the commitment to this province. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Minister, I now recognize Member Maran.
Thanks. Thanks, House Chair. House Chair, I rise on behalf of the African National Congress to decline support for this budget vote. Before we provide the reasons for the rejection of this budget vote, we wish to commend the department in the decrease in expenditure in Programme 1, especially in cutting foreign travel. We also note the increase in compensation of employment. Now we will come to the concern of the slower than planned filling of posts in a moment. The increase in Programme 3, which is compliance and enforcement and especially litigation, must also be noted. Now the ANC believes that these funds of 3 million could have been used to establish the office of the Environmental Commissioner. But it is on that basis, Chairperson, that the ANC cannot support this budget. We cannot support this budget of the department that does not support the call to uphold, defend and respect the provincial constitution, which calls for the establishment of the Environmental Commissioner's office. The ANC has raised a serious concern before, but it would seem that the leadership of the Department of the Premier is not listening. Even the Honourable Van der Westhuizen pointed out that the filling of posts in the department remains an issue on the agenda. Every year, the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning complains about the sluggish space in which critical positions in the department is filled because of understaffing and staff exits in the Department of the Premier. Over 2 million will be shifted from funds initially budgeted for compensation of employees, because according to the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, the Corporate Services Centre in the Department of the Premier are slow to appoint. As we have heard from the Honourable Dagmar earlier, there are certainly serious staffing issues in the Department of the Premier, and we see this impacting on other departments in the provincial government, this department being an example. The ANC must also raise serious concerns about the decrease in sustainable water program projects because of non-responsive and non-compliant bid processes. In Programme 6, there was also a comparative spending which was lower due to less cost on the Waterpreneurs project as a result of non-compliant bids received. The Sustainable Water Program and the Waste Entrepreneurs project are rather important projects, but they seem to be challenged with either non-responsive and non-compliant bids. Bidding processes are difficult processes for disadvantaged communities, and no indication is given as to what the department is doing to ensure that no one is left behind out of these bidding processes, especially given that both these programs will be receiving increases in the adjustment budget. The ANC must also raise its concern and objection to the decrease and shifting of funds from climate change management. As we have heard from the MEC of Agriculture himself, climate change remains one of the generation's biggest challenges. And even now, when the MEC basically has addressed us in terms of his budget, also agree that climate change is the #1 global risk. And yet, we have moved 301,000 rand from meant for climate change to other programs. While we understand there is no climate change law, funds were budgeted for this sub-program and should have been spent on this critical area. Again, the absence of a climate change law and the easy shifting of funds from climate change management lends to the AC's argument for a call to appoint an environmental commissioner. Adequate appropriations should have been made for the statutory obligations in the main appropriation. It is devastating that climate change management now has to suffer because of lack of adequate budgeting. On this note of climate change, which this provincial government seems to pay lip service to because they literally do not put their money where their mouth is, I wish to quote President Cyril Ramaphosa at the recent COP27 held in Egypt when he said, and I quote, "For the sake of our continent and the world, we need a dramatic increase in global mitigation ambition to keep the world on the 1.5-degree pathway. Like other vulnerable regions, Africa needs to build adaptive capacity, foster resilience, and address loss of damage, as well as agreed at Paris COP 2021. To achieve this, our continent will need a predictable, appropriate, and at scale funding stream and technological support." End quote. Chairperson, funding for climate change management cannot be dependent on whether it is a statutory obligation or not. All of us must do our bit to take climate change seriously, and we will expect the department constitutionally endowed with environmental affairs and development planning in the province to take the lead in taking it serious. As President Ramaphosa pointed out, we need predictable, appropriate, and at scale funding streams and technological support to achieve the 1.5-degree pathway. Again, Acting House Chair, I rise on behalf of the African National Congress to decline support for this budget vote. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable Member Makamba Bucha.
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chair, a mere increase of just more than 7 million into this department is not enough. This is the department that should make sure that we have a sustainable, resilient, quality and inclusive living environment. House Chair, most people in townships experience sewage spills almost on a daily basis because of poor infrastructure and are made to remain in such conditions for days, if not weeks. Most municipalities in the province are still battling with old infrastructure, which is not helpful to the people of this province, especially in the townships and rural areas. Madam Chair, collections of waste is still a problem in township and remains a health hazard for people of this province. The DA-led government does not take poor people of this province serious. This situation is quite the opposition when it comes to the CBD and leafy suburbs, as that is where one experiences good and sustainable infrastructure, and not the substandard infrastructure found in the townships. The reality, Madam Chair, is that a bulk of the budget of this province is mostly spent in rich areas where white people reside. The issue of spatial planning and development is only documented in government documents, and it is never implemented or even fulfilled. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable August.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Our country, and more specifically our province, our economy and growth potential is challenged due to climate change. Our environment is changing. Landscapes are changing and habitats are changing. All these changes will impact and influence how residents of this province engages with their surroundings, development and growth. With all this in mind, the conversation around climate change and our changing environment is not being had at an accelerated rate. Most communities do not understand this all-important topic, as some words of it does not even exist in their mother tongue. This department and the responsibility that they carry are not doing enough to ensure that our province is prepared for the dangers that's ahead and how it will impact our daily lives. The adjusted resources and budgets of this department should be devoted to accelerate our preparedness to withstand the effects of climate change and invest heavily in environmental instruments to assist various communities with their changing environments. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable van der Westhuizen.
Honourable House Chair, I rise to address the House on the proposed adjustments in the budget of Vote 9, the budget for the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. The Standing Committee studied the adjustments and by majority vote decided to recommend to the House that the adjustments be supported. I want to put on record, and I'm glad to hear from the other parties as well, that we are unanimous in our verdict that this department has been suffering from a lack of budget for a number of years now. What is more, this budget has not kept up with inflation, nor with the growth in our population, and particularly the growth in the recognition of the important role that the environment and the fast-growing pressures on the environment is putting. Many of these are caused by our lifestyles, driving and flying with fossil fuel-driven engines, heating and cooling of homes and offices, etc. I'm also glad to see that all members in this Parliament seem to agree that climate change is real. The causes and the effects have been studied, yet we should be paying even more attention to this challenge. The ice caps are melting. It's getting hotter and drier than ever before, and some studies indicate the tipping point beyond which the Earth will continue to heat up regardless of what us humans do. This will be reached in a matter of years, not centuries. And attention is not all that climate change needs. It needs money to implement measures to address this threat, not only for our future, but more so for the future of our children. This department has developed a strong climate change strategy through the Vision 2050 strategy that is supported by the more detail-oriented implementation plan and the 2050 carbon emissions mitigation pathway, both in development during 2022-2023. This shows that climate change and the effects on this province are being taken seriously. As a provincial government, we can, however, only do so much, particularly in the absence of a coordinated and committed effort from national government. I expected the ANC's whining regarding the environmental commissioner, and as with any other ANC-run province, or has any other ANC-run province appointed an environmental commissioner. When will the ANC put action to words? When will the ANC start to live according to the principles that they are so quick to proclaim? But then, clearly, principled ANC members are hard to find, Chair. Their actions show that they are rotten from the top right down to local level. I invite the Honourable Maran to exchange his continuous moaning for a constructive input. What exactly would the Honourable Maran like such a commissioner to do? I invite him to start drafting a job description for an environmental commissioner so that we can see whether the millions that an office for a commissioner will cost will bring a higher yield than the numerous positions of departmental officials that we will have to cut to provide for these millions. I invite the Honourable Maran to indicate which departmental programs should be cut. Must we scale down on our uphill battle against alien vegetation in our water catchment areas? Do we need to cut back on firefighting in our nature reserves? Must we cut back on the limited number of law enforcement officers and their desperate fight against poaching in trying to protect our natural resources? Please, Honourable, through you, Chair, Honourable must step up and indicate from which program the money for such a commissioner must be found. Unfortunately, probably from the bank in Palapala, unfortunately, provinces are not receiving the share of national income that we reserve. It is highly frustrating to see the serious shortages and needs in the province.
Can you please sit down? Honourable Member Maran, you cannot talk directly. If it's a point of order, you have to rise on a point of order, but you can't request that I respond when you didn't put any point of order. And Honourable Maran, like I said yesterday, still the same principle. You can heckle, but don't drown the speaker. Just keep it that way. Over to you, member.
Thank you, Chair. You must now stop moaning about being fried. Unfortunately, provinces are not receiving the share of national income that we deserve. It's highly frustrating to see the serious shortages and needs in this province, and then also to witness how money from that same precious pool of taxes are being squandered at national level. The net effect of the adjustments is an increase of just over 7 million in the total budget, bringing that to 575,582,000 rand. This represents a small increase of 1.23% on the main budget. The adjustments are therefore small and limited to only a few line items. 2.7 million rand of the increase is due to the 3% salary increases for public service staff as instructed by National Treasury. 2.3 million is for approved rollovers for multi-year programs, and the balance of 2.2 million is mostly for approved revenue retention. We also see an increase in funding for compliance and enforcement, which deals with monitoring, licensing, and complaints relating to environmental protection. This strengthens the capacity of the department to hold transgressors to account and ensure that the environment is not an afterthought for business and developments. If we are to make any progress in protecting the environment, it's of the utmost importance that every factory that leaks runoff into a river or release harmful gases into the air, or even sly contractors dumping their rubble in the veld must be held to account. The slight increase in allocation for Program 2 also points to the prioritization of spatial planning and a focus on integrated development planning between the different levels of government. I'm worried that more and more self-respecting companies are no longer willing to bid for the procurement needs of the public sector. This is due to the ANC's multiple agendas that accompany public sector procurement. This department has also suffered from non-responsive and non-compliant bid responses. Salaries and subsidies increased with 357,000 as provision for unpaid leave credits for officials who left the employ of the department. Other increases were caused by the higher than expected increases in fuel costs, which just shows why it is so important to bring an end to the war that Russia has launched against the people of the Ukraine. A war that the ANC implicitly supports through its cowardly inability to take a strong moral stance. This department, similarly to other departments, also experienced delays in the procurement of computer equipment, partly due to the non-availability of certain parts caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Money will also be directed to equipment related to water quality. Air quality and water quality are highly important issues when it comes to our health and well-being, and we need to genuinely protect these resources in the Western Cape. This department is doing exceptional work with a limited budget. This is something across the aisle, but that my colleagues across the aisle will find strange, as national departments often seem to have too much money that just as often disappears into the pockets of criminals. In the light of all above, I call on members to support the adjustment budget for Vote 9, so the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning can continue to serve as an example to the rest of South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now recognize Minister Freda.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Honourable House Chair, to the Honourable Maran, through you, I'm very glad that the ANC don't support this adjustment budget, because if they will support it, I would have been very worried. I've expected it. On his comment on water, the threat to water is ANC government. We are keeping the water sources running. Just the other day, the Department of Water and Sanitation put out a press release to tell the public that there's no worries about the water, our dams are fine, and sending out a very dangerous message. So you can expect that from an ANC government. To the Honourable Makanya Botja, infrastructure is it's a headache, and therefore the Premier has recognized that headache and therefore started a department to focus on infrastructure. It's got nothing to do with race or color or language or anything. It's got very much to do about 100,000 plus people running away from ANC governments in other provinces and coming to us, and we welcome them. But obviously that puts huge strain on our infrastructure, Honourable Chair, and therefore we need to get our plans and our house in order, and all our municipalities recognise this and put in a huge effort to try and get ahead of this curve. Honourable House Chair, to the Honourable August, I thank you. Growth, all these challenges, we deal with it. And you're correct that in our communities to land the message, it's very difficult. As they say, Honourable August, there's a Chinese saying that in ryk areas, ryk mense het baie om oor bekommerd te wees. Arme mense is bekommerd oor hulle volgende maaltyd. And it's difficult to sell to poor people the message of climate change because their worry is about getting food on the table for their children. So it is a challenge, and we work with our communities. To the Honourable Chair of the Committee, Andrikus, thank you very much. Honourable Member, for your leadership, for keeping us on our toes, for asking the hard and difficult questions, and also for the leadership within the committee. I want to thank you, and with that we can table the adjustment budget. Thank you.
That concludes, honourable members, that concludes the debate on this vote. Okay.
Order members, thank you very much for your indulgence. Welcome back, Honourable Dugmore. Thank you for making the time to get back. Honourable members, I'd like to deal with the motion on hand that was submitted today, so I'm going to repeat for the record. I've received confirmation from the Secretary that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition has submitted a notice of motion in terms of Rule 151, one of the standing rules, at 11:35 this morning. In terms of the rules, the notion of motion must be placed on the order paper for Monday, the 5th of December, 2022. Honourable Dugmore, are you going to rise in point of 151? Not yet? All right. So you have submitted your motion. Are you rising in terms today? Will you rise, or do you want to first respond and then I can proceed?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Apologies. I was timing to be here for the local government vote.
Sure.
To fetch a vehicle in Athlone. But as I understand your ruling, you have then agreed that this motion will be placed on the order paper for Monday. But my understanding is that there's no reason that the House cannot deal with it now. And that's what I want to ask, because if there is unanimous support, and I do believe that if the content of the motion was read out to the legislature, there would be unanimous support, because it is simply a constitutional matter and asking for the election of the Speaker to be convened by a designated judge. So, that I would like to ask why we cannot deal with that motion now.
Thank you. I will respond. Honourable Wadman.
Thank you, Chair. I rise on Rule 151, subsection 3. If the House was asked to deal with the motion, then the House can object or not object, but the House to date has not been asked to deal with the notice of motion for today. Thank you.
Yeah. Just give me a second. So, Honourable Dugmore, there is a process involved here. You need to cite the rule in terms of, for that request. You may rise.
Speaker, thank you very much for that ruling. And I believe that if the House does have the opportunity to debate the motion on Monday, it's Friday today. I mean, the main purpose behind this is to deal with the situation where the House doesn't have a Speaker. So if we can deal with it on Monday, then hopefully, all the parties would have a time to consider the matter and then hopefully resolve it. So I accept your ruling. Thanks.
If you can give me a second. Thank you very much, Honourable Dugmore. The matter has now been dispensed of, and we move on to the rest of the order of the day. Thank you very much. You may proceed.
So the matter will now be placed, and you don't have to repeat this, just for clarity, the matter will be placed on the order paper on Monday, Honourable Dugmore is to rise in terms of whichever room to be dealt with.
Perfect.
Honourable members. Order, honourable members. Deputy Whip of the Opposition. Honourable Member Mackenzie. Thank you very much. We are now on the, is it the 6th or the 7th? Okay. The Secretary will read the 6th order of the day. Is it the 6th or 5th? Oh, the 5th order of the day.
Vote 14, Local Government, Western Cape Adjustment Appropriation Bill.
Thank you very much. I recognize Minister Bredel.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair, to the Honourable Premier, Honourable Members of the Executive, to the Honourable Members of the House. Thank you for the opportunity. The Department of Local Government is one of the smallest departments in this government, but is making a huge impact in the quality of life of our citizens. Honourable House Chair, this is not my opinion. This is according to the Auditor General, the Department of Water and Sanitation Blue Dot Report, the Department of Water and Sanitation Green Dot Report, Stats South Africa General Household Survey Report. All these reports found that in 2022, local governments in the Western Cape stand head and shoulders above all the other provinces in South Africa. Allow me to thank the HOD, Graham Paulse and his officials for the hard work behind the scenes, which played a big part in these successes. Honourable House Chair, a lot of hard work has been done in 2022. We grapple with unsustainable and unstable coalitions that are distracting people from focusing on services to their communities. We have 4 municipalities with outstanding debt to Eskom. This is an embarrassment for me, and we will keep on working to find solutions. Honourable House Chair, the Honourable Maran don't want to ask that question. I can promise you. So, Honourable House Chair, there is no reason for a municipality to fall behind on Eskom payments. Load shedding reached new heights in 2022. We saw that prolonged load shedding above stage 4 is crippling even the best run municipalities. Water sewage pumps simply cannot keep up and systems become unstable. I want to thank the disaster management team for the excellent coordination work they have been doing this past year regarding load shedding. Also, thank you to the technical support our engineers have been providing to our municipalities during this time. House Chair, I also want to give special recognition to our disaster management staff who responded to the dire needs in KwaZulu-Natal after the devastating floods earlier this year. Your selfless and brave actions are recognized by this Parliament and by the KZN government. Honourable House Chair, one thing that became very clear during the KZN rescue mission was that successful disaster management requires well-trained and well-equipped staff. There is no sense in having a huge disaster fund if you don't have the capacity and skills to act during such events. House Chair, during the adjustment estimate of 2022-2023 financial year, the original budget of 309,301,000 rand decreased with 9,204,000 rand to 300,097,000 rand. This was the result of, amongst others, the following: a saving of R8,440,000 due to the reduction in employee compensation. This is reallocated towards additional contracts appointments during the 2023-2024 financial year. Due to the delays with the recruitment process to appoint capacity within the department, earmark funds are allocated to support the fire strategy of the department and strengthen the capacity of fire and rescue services. These funds are to be reallocated in the 2023-2024 financial year to fund the replacement of Disaster Management Centre audiovisual infrastructure and the maintenance and support requirements relating to the audiovisual infrastructure. Savings under goods and services will see R5.4 million shifted to provide support to municipalities through the JDMA and to fund water resilience projects. Honourable House Chair, the past year has seen the staff in the department under severe pressure as challenges in our local government seems to grow daily. With finances being under pressure, it is now critical for us to allocate resources where we will see the strategic impact most desired. Again, I want to thank our HOD and the team for doing this important work under difficult circumstances. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Bredel. I now recognize Member Dagmo.
No. Of course. Thank you, Honourable House Chair. House Chair, we want to put it on record that we reject this budget vote today. As my colleagues and I go through this adjustment budget, and in fact the others, as we've done in previous years, but particularly in this department, we are noticing a trend in the very serious failure of the department, of the Premier, to fill, and in particular this Department of Local Government, to fill certain posts. Now, for me, it's not exactly surprising, House Chair, because MEC Bredel has not only been found guilty once, but actually twice by the Public Protector. And what has he been found guilty of, honourable members? He has been found guilty of attempting to implement cadre deployment within the municipality. So now what is happening here, they do headhunting, they do this, but they find that there are no DA cadres good enough to appoint. So then they don't fill those posts. We have an MEC who's the mastermind behind DA cadre deployment. So it's not surprising that this department every year says...
Honourable Member, can you take your seat? There's a point of order.
As Chairperson, I rise in terms of Rule 59 regarding no member may impute improper motives on, reflect on the integrity or dignity of, or verbally abuse another member. Thank you.
Honourable Member, Deputy of the...
Honourable House Chair, with respect, I think this is frivolous. The Honourable Bartman should know better, because when she did a similar thing with a matter that was not even in the public domain and was not even a fact about the Honourable Baku Force, when it was SOPA, it was dismissed. This is a political matter, Honourable House Chair. It's a political matter. It's a frivolous point of order. The member is not imputing anything.
Honourable Member, you rise on point of order. You don't make a speech. So if you raise a point of order, you have to say on which rule that you don't do this speech so that we can continue with the business of the day.
Responding to that particular point of order.
We are not going to have the conversation, Honourable Member, and you are sitting down, Member Maran, you are not going to address me. We are going to continue with the order of the day. Acting Chief Whip, I will come back to you. We can continue. Member, continue. You are disturbing your own member from the opposition. Let him finish with the with this debate?
No, thank you, Chair. So it's clear to me from your ruling that you have actually regarded the acting Chief Whip's comments as frivolous because you haven't upheld her ruling. So I can repeat what I said.
I said, Honorable Member, I'll come back with the ruling. That means I said something. So continue with your debate. You don't have to say something after I've ruled. Continue with your debate, Member.
I thank you very much. Because when we look at this carefully, we find that it is astonishing that millions, in fact 122 millions, were surrendered to the Provincial Revenue Fund over this period due to unspent compensation of employees. No, let's check back over the last couple of years. That is the amount of money that has been surrendered. And our argument is that, so we all know that this department is understaffed. This adjustment and the annual report process shows that. But the continued failure to appoint people to this department makes it clear that because they cannot find DA cadres competent enough or loyal enough to them, they then say they can't fill these posts and give the money back to the... That is a trend that we've picked up very clearly, and it's a huge concern that we need to look at. Earlier we heard from the Honourable Moran that the bottleneck in appointing staff to critical posts in environmental affairs and development planning lies with the Department of the Premier. So is it now all the fault of the mastermind of cadre deployment in the DA, MEC Bradell, or is it the fault of the mastermind's boss, i.e. the Honourable Premier? But clearly there is a process here to make sure that only DA loyalists are appointed to particular sessions. I don't want to even go into family members because we all know the story about family members in your department but we can get to that. In this adjusted budget, more than 8 million was again shifted because of critical posts in the local government department not being filled. So the 122 is a broad figure. The 8 million specifically in this adjustment is the local government figure. So where is actually the problem, we ask, House Chair? According to the officials of the local government, they say it lies with the Department of the Premier. Where does it actually lie? We know that local government is a critical sphere and it lacks capacity, was the continuous refrain that we heard from the officials themselves. And we all know that after having emerged from the most disastrous drought our province has faced in generations, and knowing the potential that the agriculture sector has in our provincial economy, as well as the lack of access to water that our people suffer from, it is inexplicable how there have been delays with the filling of the drought capacity support in the department to the tune of 3 million. When you don't have capacity, that also means that commercial and small black farmers do not get the drought support that they should. And this must really come to an end. And I appeal to the MEC just to be honest with us in the House today about this. We can send you qualified people who are actually able to do this. I take the point around the engineering services. No one is denying that that is a difficult issue. Often they get paid more in local government, but there is possibilities of contracts, of negotiating with people and getting them on board. So it's very clear that the budget does not provide any support, hardly, for training capacity at local government, which is one of the core functions. 1.1 million has been surrendered once again to the Provincial Revenue Fund, initially earmarked for fire services capacity for the same reason, delays in the recruitment process. Again, more than R500,000 was surrendered to the PRF due to delays with the recruitment process relating to the appointment of capacity to be utilized for research, policy and legislation. I don't even want to get to the fact that not a cent has been spent on the process towards setting up the House of Traditional Leaders, not 1 cent. And that begs the question, how important is that House of Traditional Leaders to this government and this department in particular? Because we know during Helen Zille's reign of terror in this legislature, she made absolutely no effort to get a House of Traditional Leaders. Now that provinces are forced to do it, we still have no political will. And I think the Khoi and the San communities of the Western Cape must take notice. Not only did the DA vote against this bill in the National Assembly, But now in the province, when they actually are required to implement it, they are not spending a cent. In total, nearly 3.5 million was surrendered back to the PRF due to these delays. And what we also see is that R1 million was taken from awareness-related projects and machinery and equipment for community development workers to fund IT equipment in Program 1, which is administration, and that for comms and social media campaigns. It's just totally unacceptable, House Chair. CDWs are critical, and the machinery and equipment they employ are indispensable. Yet, this department takes funds initially identified for this machinery of CDWs and equipment for them, and then funds IT in the non-core program of its administration. We also note, House Chair, that funds for further awareness raising was shifted to Program 1, and there should be little doubt that the MEC wanted this under his sight so that this communication and social media can be used for party political purposes. Because you must remember, his poor department have to communicate unacceptable and biased decisions that he makes on almost a weekly basis. He's going to defend that councillor, he's not going to defend that councillor, or he will defend for party political reasons. So now his poor department must communicate that. And then, vir die arme MEC het, ons is nou die waarnemende leier van die DA, meneer Simmers, wat vir die MEC wil nou opdrag gee om vir Keith Jordan aan te stel. And I'm sure the MEC told him straight, you can't expect me to do that. And now he, because he's got some, MEC Simmers, because he's got some debt to pay to Keith Jordan, he's now telling this MEC to allow the appointment of Keith Jordan. And that is why we have taken that MEC to the Public Protector, and hy gaan huil. Hy gaan huil wanneer die uitkoms, want die feite is daar. Voice recordings, WhatsApp recordings are there.
Honourable Member, can you sit down?
Honourable
Member Bosman.
Presiding House Chair, I don't want to take Van Gofani's job, but the member is speaking past you. He is speaking through other members and is pointing fingers, Chair. It's quite disturbing.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. And I know Member Syed doesn't like that behavior. So, Honourable Member, if you can address the member through the chair, we'll appreciate that.
Thank you. But House Chair, only you would know how good the eye contact between the two of us is. It's been very solid. I do sometimes look this way, but you and I have maintained very good eye contact, and we will continue to do so. There's a total lack of detail when it comes to municipal infrastructure. For example, we see a decrease of 894,000 in the goods and services budget of municipal infrastructure, but we are not told what these funds were initially identified for in the main appropriation. It is therefore difficult, House Chair, for us to understand what or which municipal infrastructure projects or support will not happen. Now, I want to ask, is that because the acting leader of the DA is giving instructions to this MEC about what to do with infrastructure? And I'm particularly concerned, I want to warn the Honourable MEC for local government not to be influenced by his acting leader, because he's going to get him into trouble.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable Member Makamba Boja of EFF.
Thank you, House Chair. It is very concerning and worrying that the budget of the Department of Local Government is reduced by more than 9 million. This is the department with a mandate to monitor and support municipalities in order to be able to fulfill their own mandate. Madam House Chair, municipalities are a first point of call for residents when it comes to service delivery issues. The majority of municipalities in the province do not have provisions for emergency housing. So instead of reducing the budget of the department, why are these funds not transferred to these municipalities which struggle to carry out this mandate of providing for emergency housing for residents? Madam Chair, municipalities such as Drakenstein have been taken to court in the recent past for this very same issue of not making provision for emergency housing. It is also shocking that most of these municipalities point to lack of resources, but at the same time spend millions of rands in litigation defending why they do not executing their mandate. Madam Chair, beyond the issue of emergency housing, smaller municipalities in the province do not have budget to provide residents with houses. Lack of services in delivery by municipality township, it's a major issue. People from informal settlements still relieve themselves in bushes as they are not provided with temporary toilets at the very least. Madam Chair, the poor people of this province are not taken seriously by this DA-led government. On that note, Madam Chair, the EFF will not support this vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Member America.
Thank you, Chair, House Chair. Actually, before I start, and I don't know, I'm the chairperson of the Standing Committee, and Honourable Dugmore and Honourable Makamba Boycha, all members of the committee. I don't know whether we're in the same committee, because the figures mentioned by Honourable Dugmore are not those figures that are contained in the adjustment budget. But more of that, perhaps the Minister will respond to that. But let me continue, House Chair. Last week, the Provincial Minister of Finance, Minister Wenger, tabled the results contained in the 2020 Municipal Economic Review Outlook, commonly referred to as the MERO. This outlook proved beyond any doubt that the Western Cape is fast becoming the preferred destination for manufacturing, financial and agricultural businesses across South Africa. The 2020 MERO shows that the Western Cape has expanded its gross domestic product, or GDP, one of the only 3 provinces in the country to do so. This growth has been driven by all our municipalities, including the city of Cape Town, which have experienced a year of strong and consistent growth post the devastating years of COVID-19. Additionally, the recently released unemployment statistics of Stats South Africa, the Western Cape boasts with the lowest unemployment figures in the country. And I would like to remind our matriculants in the gallery that you're more likely to find a job in the Western Cape than in any other province in the country. This is incredibly good news, given that jobs remain at the top of the agenda of the DA. In the words of Minister Wenger, I quote, "A job provides dignity and self-agency, breaking the cycle of poverty. Employment creates opportunity, Honourable Nkondlu, and hope for many families across the province." These results are not abstract figures, which will delight some economists sitting in an air-conditioned office somewhere. They represent real, meaningful change in the lives of our citizens. The results include GDP expansion of 6.2% in the West Coast District Municipality, 5.3% in the Cape Winelands Municipality, and consistent growth across our province. Judging objectively from all indices, our growth has outstripped the rest of the country, providing for the upturn time, something which we all already know, that the DA gets things done. Our Speaker, it is no secret that our municipalities has put the Western Cape's municipalities so far ahead from the rest of the country. The Western Cape government has consistently maintained an unwavering focus on clean and responsible municipal and provincial governance. Over the last year, the DA-run Western Cape achieved great success in the fields of municipal audits, poverty reduction, unemployment, clean and corruption-free governance. By ensuring service delivery and financial health in the province's municipalities, the Department of Local Government has in turn ensured the necessary conditions for growth in the Western Cape. The Western Cape government has also doubled down on infrastructure necessary for growth, with significant investments made into ensuring the security of our municipal water supplies. We know that water is a scarce resource in our province, and one which is becoming ever scarcer as the result of climate change. Even now, our dam levels are at the lowest in 3 years, and the lowest since the end of the drought in 2018. Our Speaker, this is something which keeps me awake at night, as it should every citizen of the Western Cape. But I am comforted by the fact that this government is doing what it does best and taking steps to fix the problem. Since 2018, 67 million rand has been spent to ensure the future of the Western Cape's water supply and to prevent any crisis in the future. In this adjustment budget, the Western Cape government continues this trend by making an additional 3 million rand directly available to municipalities and a further 5.4 million rand transfer to the JDMA for water resilience projects in the various districts. Our Speaker, through innovative techniques and intelligent investments, the City of Cape Town is also able to offer businesses a vastly higher degree of energy security than the rest of the country. And it is therefore absolutely no surprise that both businesses and ordinary citizens are fleeing the collapsing ANC government's disastrous administration to move and come live in the province, which has the government it needs to grow, prosper, and move forward. In fact, I believe that it will not be long before the economic center of the country moves from Gauteng to the Western Cape. After all, our Speaker, how can you manufacture without electricity? How can you start a business under a government which only knows bribery and corruption? How can you live without water? As the Western Cape's governing party, our opposition often criticizes us for drawing too much attention to economic indicators rather than people. We are told that it is commendable that we have received clean audit outcomes and higher GDP growth. We are also told that we fail to clarify the impact these have on the lives of the people whom we represent. So let me be clear. Good governance results in economic growth, which in turn results in more jobs, enhanced safety, and a higher standard of well-being for the people of the Western Cape. Continuous and sustained economic growth in the Western Cape brings with it jobs, prosperity, and well-being for the citizens and ensures that the Western Cape remains on a positive trajectory towards a better future and provides yet another example of the DA's proven ability to guarantee growth where it governs. Above all else, the Western Cape government does the one thing which seemingly no other government in this country can do. It gives people hope. It gives our citizens, the people of this province that put us in this house, the confidence that we as representatives care for them and that this government is planning for the future. And this is not even accounting for the work that our government does on the ground. Our Speaker, it gives me great pride to state that during our oversight visit in the Overberg region, the Department of Local Government initiated a catalytic project through the JDMA by establishing a network of safe houses for women and children suffering from social ills, including gender-based violence and femicide and poverty across the district. So, after moving to Bredasdorp in 2012, community worker Ms. Lana O'Neill immediately realized the lack of a safe shelter for abused women in the area. Through a non-profit organization, Heavenly Promise 48, and supported by the Cape Agulhas municipality, she offered preventative programs, crisis intervention, and shelter to abused women. With the help of the Department of Local Government, a network of these NGO-driven safe houses will be established across our province with strong support from the respective municipalities, private sector, and departments from various spheres of government to ensure that the safety net where women and children can be moved to according to their needs. Once again, this Western Cape government is taking policy that works and rolling it out as quickly as possible. Once again, the Western Cape government is creating meaningful change in people's lives. And therefore, I'd like to express my heartfelt gratitude and appreciation to Ms. Lana O'Neill for the selfless work she does with abused women and vulnerable women in Bredasdorp. So, our Speaker, as we know, our country is in a time of political uncertainty, turmoil, and change. I know that members opposite may have a new party leader in a few hours' time. But what is more important is that South African citizens, the people who still do have the ultimate authority over this country, will soon head to the polls. And when they do, I believe they will look to this province, to our municipalities, and to this government. And they will see that there is only one choice to be made at the ballot box: forward or backwards, DA or ANC. So, our Speaker, I congratulate the department, Minister Bredell, on their work over the last year. I support this adjustment budget, and I look forward to seeing the success of this province replicated on a national scale following our next election. Forward or backwards, DA or ANC. I thank you, our Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, I now recognize Minister Bredell.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Honourable House Chair, yeah, I feel very sorry for my colleagues on the other side, for the ANC. They're in turmoil. They've got a very difficult situation to deal with, so I understand the tension. Honourable House Chair, I want to say through you to the Honourable Dugmore, at least I've got a leader, an elected leader. The ANC, Honourable House Chair, in this province must be so ashamed. They can't even hold a Congress. I've got more branches in my constituency than they've got in this province. Honourable Chair, so yeah, to stand up and talk today about this vote, it must be very difficult for the ANC. Honourable House Chair, I want to say to the Honourable Dugmore through you that at least if you look at where they currently stand with the situation with the President, if you look back on the Zondo Commission, where we spent more than R1 billion of this taxpayers' money for the ANC to determine which cadre steals more than the other one, because nobody's end up in jail currently. More than R1 billion. More than R1 billion. Honourable Chairperson, they've asked about the 4 municipalities who don't pay Eskom. Well, surprise, surprise, all 4 is ANC. All 4 is ANC problems. Yes, Matsikama, we took over Matsikama, but it's an ANC governed municipality who ends up in that. We took it over from the ANC. That's why the voters throw the ANC under the bus there, because they can't even pay Eskom. Matsikama, Cederberg, Kannaland, Beaufort West, there you've got it, Honourable Chair. But Honourable Chair, if you can't put your party together and have a Congress, it's no wonder the country is where it is.
Honourable Minister, can you sit down for a second? Honourable Member, are you rising on a point of order?
No, I needed to come in down. I saw that.
Honourable Member, sit down.
I'm very calm. I'm very calm, Honourable House Chair. I'm just so ashamed for the ANC. This mighty organisation who drops to nothing, where we should in this House talk about the future of the young people in the audience. We sit here today, don't know if we're going to have a president tonight. Honourable Chair, they have managed, the ANC has managed to bankrupt Eskom. They've managed to bankrupt our rail system. They've managed to bankrupt our water system. They've managed to bankrupt Telkom. But you know what is very worrying, Honourable Chair? Poor people, when they need to go and stand in a queue for UIF, they can't get their money because the ANC don't have the system to pay them. And they dare to stand up in this House and try to grandstand. What a shame. What a shame. Honourable Chair, to the Honourable Standing Committee, I want to thank the Honourable Chairperson, to the Honourable Members, for the hard work, for asking the difficult questions, for keeping us sharp, keeping us on our toes. I want to end off, Honourable Chair. Through you, to the Honourable Dugmore, you must never misuse freedom of speech. I think it's a disgrace when we start to call people by their name who can't defend themselves. And he must explain how one member, because the DA's got one member in Kannaland, how do one member employ a person? You cannot. You cannot. There can be 100 voice clips. That's illegal in any case. But they don't have any regard for the law. Because according to the law, you're not allowed to tape anybody. Do you know that, Honourable? But they don't care. They don't have any regard for the law. That's why the ANC will be voted out in 2024, but now in 2023 because we need an urgent election because of the failures of the ANC, Honourable Chairperson. So, Honourable Chairperson, I'm looking forward to the next election. So thank you very much and thank you to the Standing Committee.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, that concludes the debate on this vote. Honourable Member, is there a point of order?
Chairperson, and sadly, I was rising on a point of order, but I was ignored. The Honourable MEC was allowed to say what he wanted to say. Many things around casting aspersions, but it's fine. I did not have an opportunity because you chose to ignore me. Thank you.
Honourable Member Syed, that's really not honest of what you are saying, and you know it. But anyway, we are going to continue with the order of the day. Member Maran, leader of the opposition, who really have to lead that. The Secretary will read the 6th order of the day. Honourable members, we do have guests in the House. Honourable Member, Leader of the Opposition, may I address you? Member Ngondlo, Member Syed, Member Maran, and then all the members on my right. we do have the guests here that really are looking forward to listen to your debates. Not heckling. I'm definitely sure when I interacted with them, they said they are looking forward to listen to your debates. Let's give them a chance of listening to those debates. So I do thank you for your cooperation. The Secretary will read the 6th order of the day.
Debate on vote 10, Transport and Public Works, Western Cape Adjustment Appropriation Bill.
I recognize Honorable Simmons.
House Chairperson, Honorable Premier, Honorable colleagues in the Cabinet, physically present and logged in virtually, members of the House present but also logged in virtually, our learners in the gallery and also our guests logged in via the virtual medium. I was really humbled and honored when the Premier appointed me as the executive authority of the new infrastructure portfolio, comprising of elements from the Department of Transport and Public Works, which is the vote I'm speaking on now, and the Department of Human Settlements, which I spoke of earlier. I stand here today to report on the Department of Transport and Public Works' adjustment budget, which, with its budget allocation for the 2023-24 financial year, will form part of the new Department of Infrastructure on the 1st of April 2023. But this is a budget that goes beyond excellence. And why do I say a budget beyond excellence, Honourable House Chairperson?
Minister, can you take your seat? Honourable Member.
Honourable House Chairperson, I mean, really, these smart aleck remarks when we want to rise on issues of clarity, it's really not assisting. I hope the guests in the gallery
Honourable
can
Member,
see.
just say your point of order.
Allow us to also preempt. I'm just a matter of clarity. We're busy with transport and public works. I see Member Simmers speaking. I don't see Member Mitchell.
Acting Chief Whip, I recognize you.
Thank you. Thank you, House Chair. As the Minister actually indicated in the beginning of his speech, he is the executive authority with the respective assigned powers by the Premier. And therefore, he is part of this debate because of his executive powers, as previously tabled in this House. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that is a clarity to you, Deputy. I recognize.
No, you see, this shows how the Premier has plunged provincial government into a state of confusion and disarray.
Honourable Syed.
It's just some idea they thought of infrastructure. Now, Honourable Mitchell doesn't even have any executive authority. They have an MEC with no executive authority. But I will sit.
Honourable members, you are not going to raise frivolous points of order. So we are going to continue with the business of the day. Continue, Minister.
As I was saying, Honourable House Chairperson, the Department of Transport and Public Works received a clean audit from the AG, not for the first, nor for the second, nor for the third year, but for the 10th consecutive year in a row. This indeed is an achievement beyond the most ambitious of dreams for our counterparts with memberships from Luthuli House who are oddly making a noise. Maar leerblikke maak die meeste geraas in elk geval. Hy is voorzitter, sê die geseerde. House Chair, if it were any other government...
May you sit down, please? Chief Whip of the Opposition. Chief Whip of the Opposition, please try to get your house in order also on the side, on the opposition side. Member Mkonzo. Member Simmers, you may continue.
Okay. Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, as I was saying, if this were any other government like the 8 other provinces where the opposition here govern. I am sure we would have seen an 18 million rand flag that glows in the dark and it would have been erected at number 9 Dorp Street. But this is the Western Cape. Ons is hier circus, ons is 'n regering. However, because excellence is what we and the public have come to expect from the Western Cape government, this is just another tick in the box of excellent service delivery. It is us, for us it is not about doing things right at the 10th attempt, but others doing the right thing for the first time. And here's a good example why I say that, Honourable Chairperson. Early in the year, the National Minister of Transport decided to launch what he called the Vala Zonke project, or Close Them All campaign to fix potholes on South Africa's roads. Now, we had to remind the National Minister, and I actually had to call him, to explain to him that in the Western Cape, we do not wait for September month to repair potholes and reseal potholes, or even maintain our roads in the Western Cape, because we have a scheduled maintenance plan throughout the year that does this. We don't do one-hit wonders like the Minister attempted to do. And one of the projects I can use to substantiate this, which we also showcased to the Minister, was a road that is called the Old Four Road, or the DR 101, in the city of Cape Town, where we showcased that not only could we create 317 job opportunities as part of our maintenance routine, but the 176 of those job opportunities were for youth and 87 were for women, Honourable House Chairperson. But we went beyond that because we could also prove to the Minister that we don't have one-hit wonder projects. This is a good example also where 12 of the subcontractors appointed by the department were 100% women-owned enterprises doing our job for us. So this project indeed is aligned to the Growth for Jobs strategy, of which this DA-led government Western Cape is the initiator. However, Honourable House Chairperson, let me get to the business of the day to end the confusion of our members on the other side of the aisle. The main appropriation of Vote 10 increases by 324.56 million rand, or 3.56%, from 9.106 billion to 9.430958 billion rand. The biggest gain of this upward adjustment is on Programme 4, which is in terms of transport operations, which from the 1st of April will be called Mobility, for those of you that haven't been following what's happening this year, which will once again see the promotion of strategic collaborations between the two spheres of government while empowering the local municipality. This time, it is to ensure that successful implementation of the Gypton project in the George municipality can occur because they are the joint contracting authority. The rollout of Gypton to Tembale commenced in November 2022, and this will see an increase in the service to double the current reach of the system since its initial launch in December 2014 in George. Additional funding of 25.553 million rand was allocated to public works infrastructure for the acquisition of properties for health and educational purposes. And in recent months, we have seen the successful delivery of these educational and health facilities under what we call the social infrastructure pillar. The completion, among others, of the 17.1 million rand project at Bottasig High School supplied and installed no less than 6 mobile classrooms, 2 general science labs, 1 double classroom, 3 administration facilities, 2 ablution facilities of 9 square meters each, 1 feeding kitchen, 3 storage containers, paved walkways, a parking area, a play area, fencing, benches and water fountains, well worth the 17.1 million rand. But similarly, we have seen the completion of the construction of the Mariesburg High School in Swartland in August of 2022 this year for an amount of 65.7 million rand. This will provide a much needed educational facility for this part of the West Coast area. The building commenced of this school on the 8th of January 2021, honourable members, and it is completed, but during the process we managed to create 211 job opportunities. The department also completed a 34 million rand project to build the new Klapmuts Primary School and the Klapmuts High School on One Earth by using mobile classrooms. Construction of this project began on the 3rd of May 2022 and was completed
Minister?
on the 8th of August 2022.
May you please take your seat?
You, House Chair, I would like to ask whether the MEC for Human Settlements is prepared to answer a question.
Honorable Member.
Well, the MEC is talking
Honorable
now.
Minister, will you take the...
Because the Premier answers questions.
Honorable
So if he wants to be
Member.
the Premier, he must get used to it.
Honorable Member, you may sit down. I heard you. We have the Minister. I think we do know that it's the Minister of Infrastructure. Are you talking about the same Minister? The Minister of Infrastructure. You talk to me and now you're ignoring me. Honorable Member Said, I recognize you.
Honorable House Chair, is the Honorable Minister willing to tell us whether this means now that MEC Mitchell, does MEC Mitchell have a budget? Does MEC Mitchell have a department? Because this is serious. You have a ceremonial MEC. This is an insult to MEC Mitchell. It's an insult to the people of the Western Cape. They are paying through the office of the Premier for a ceremonial MEC.
Honorable House Chairperson, that's not how you ask the question.
Honorable members, I think we know the Rule 66. Honorable members, I recognize Honorable Dagmore, and Honorable Dagmore asked a question. So I have to respond to that. So I'm seeing the opposition, you are raising a hand. Is there any other point of orders on point of order, or why are you raising your hands? Is a question that I'm not going to allow you to answer. I'm going to ask the Minister if you, as you are the one on the podium, are you prepared to take a question?
Chairperson, no, because this is another vote. You can write it down.
I recognize you can continue, Minister. Oh, Minister, you may take your seat. Member Nkondlo, I recognize you.
Chair, we are debating here, and that's what the Secretary read. Vote 10, Transport and Public Works. And the last time, our MEC for Transport and Public Works is MEC Mitchell. Where is he? I know, guys, man. No, guys. It's not here. Here,
thank you very
much. You are not the
Premier.
House Chair. Why do you like to extend?
Premier.
Just, you know,
Premier.
You are the hand.
Member Nkondlo addressed me. Member Nkondlo addressed me, and I'm going to ask the Acting Chief Whip. I recognize you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, unlike the ANC, the DA actually reads the provincial gazettes
What is
and
your
tablings.
point of order?
Mr. Minister,
what is your point of order?
I rise in terms of the rules of ATCing and provincial gazettes.
Honorable members, honorable members, honorable members, I will in the meantime, honorable members, Member Nkondlo, Member Nkondlo. I recognize you, Member Kama.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Order, members. Order, Premier. Order, Member Nkondlo.
No, thank you very much, House Chairperson. I think House Chairperson, this is very.
What is your point of order?
Why are you not patient? You didn't do that.
What is the point of order? I want to find out.
Why am I abused?
You have to rise on a point of order.
Yes.
So we do have Rule 66. Look at it. Tell me, what is your point of order?
Chair, can you be patient? You are going to get an opportunity to rule whether it's a point of order or not.
Oh, which rule are you rising on so that I can look at it?
I will tell you, Chair.
Continue.
Can I make the point? The issue, Chair, is that we hear that there is, and this is important for this House. This is very important for this House, that we hear that Minister Simas is an executive authority on transport and public works. But in the public, like the P97 route,
member, you know that
is Chair.
That is not a
and
point
here
of
we're here
order.
to approve a budget. It's very important, this process that we're dealing with. We're not just raising it for fun. We're approving a budget here and we're told here is an executive authority. But in the public, in terms of the work that is going to be done with this budget, it's going to be done, and Minister
Honorable Member
Galen
Kama.
is the one who's going to be an executive authority. Chair, we must not accept to be confused by these pronouncements of the Premier. You know,
Honorable Member
let us
Kama.
not allow this confusion to come to the House and stick to what we know here in the House, and the wishful thinking up until the President is informed must wait for that particular point.
Honorable,
and have someone who was now. It means the House must be concerned that we have
Honorable
a
Member, sit
Minister
down.
of Mobility that does not have a
Honorable
budget
Member,
and no engagement with
sit
us.
down.
Thank you very much, House Chair.
Sit down, Honorable Member. Honorable Members, I'm happy that Honorable Member Kama is refusing to be confused. And I am going to really plead with you. We already did the budgets. We are debating the budgets. You never questioned in your respective standing committees. So, like I said, we do have the guests, and I understand today is the debating day. We are debating. But if we are going to do, you are going to do frivolous points of orders, you disrupt the flow of the debate. So I request that we got the clarity from the acting chief whip about it was ATC. I am going to ask that we continue with the debate. Honorable Minister, you may continue.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Now, moving beyond excellence, in line with the growth for job strategy, the department created 8,677 EPWP work opportunities. We completed 85 roads and public works construction projects, and we maintained 337 road maintenance projects. So, House Chair, I think the House would agree with me. How can this not be a budget beyond excellence when the department achieved accolades showcasing its innovation and solutions-driven citizen-centric efforts? House Chair, I would love to close with the following. And this is a quote from Michael Jordan, and really, I think the confusion on that side will be clarified with this. And he said, obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, which clearly the opposition are, don't turn around and give up, which they have. Figure out how to climb it, go through it, and work around it, close quote. And that is what drives this department and the Western Cape DA-led government. Our drive is to find solutions to ensure work opportunities, safety, and well-being of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize the ANC. Honorable Member Vimbi.
Can you hear me, Chairperson? Honorable Chair.
Honorable Member.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Honorable Member, you are audible.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, the ANC does not support this budget vote. Below, I will be expanding on the reason given in the committee for our reason to reject this budget. From the onset, I must state categorically that we can feel the impact of the juniorization of this department by the Premier. This is not intended at casting aspersion or disrespect towards the MEC. One example is the fact that former MEC Matikizela, with his experience and seniority in the DA, found it easy to approach the Premier and finance MEC to provide funding for the Blue Dot and road. The decision by this MEC and provincial government to terminate the Blue Dot initiative is a clear indication that this department does not take the taxi industry seriously and that it disowns the Blue Dot initiative as Matikizela's own project. The juniorization of the department is also showing itself in the failure of the MEC to deal with the allegation of serious nature against Mr. Farrell Payne, a senior official in the department. Perhaps the Premier has finalized his mistake, which resulted in him reducing the mandate of the department to only focus on mobility. On behalf of the ANC, I want to advise the Premier to consider placing this function of mobility under the Department of Police Oversight and Community Safety and use the saving to fund other government priorities. Today, my colleagues who preceded me raised the issue of the compensation of employees. This cannot be a lament of every department because just about every department is raising this issue. The department has cut 70.585 million that was allocated for this specific program due to slower than expected filling of vacancies and staff attrition. In the 2021 annual report, reference is made of the vision-inspired priorities, in other words, the VIPs 4, which is mobility and spatial transformation. I hope this is not going to be just a theoretical policy framework cliche. There must be practical realization of this notion through the subsidization of the minibus taxi industry and the identification of suitable land in and around the CBD. This must be done throughout the province, district areas, as well as local municipality in the notion of cooperative government. The department should not look for land that is in isolation and that is far removed from the central business district. The residential areas of non-white people are strategically placed far from the center of the CBD. And I think that is actually indicative of the apartheid spatial geography. Spatial transformation can be pursued through the identification of land and buildings of the provincial government throughout the province, in district municipalities, as well as in local municipalities for purposes of socio-economic development and transformation. When we had our adjustment budget at the committee on Monday, the HOT did mention that there is money for spatial transformation, but unfortunately there seemed to be no adjustment for this program. If there are funds available, we then need to see results of economic transformation and integration throughout the program. On the mobility side of the vision-inspired priorities, the subsidization of the mini-bus taxi industry can be pursued through the continuation of the Blue Dot taxi service. We recently saw how the industry was impacted upon by the discontinuation of this project. To show their frustration, the taxi industry have called for a 2-day shutdown that resulted in more damage than good. The government portray this industry, especially the provincial government, as a violent, barbaric industry, but the main cause of the violence and barbaric behavior is the action of the provincial government that is led by the Democratic Alliance. The issue of operating licenses not being issued in time is the main reason for the fights between these associations. The government can expedite permits and issue temporary operating licenses to the Golden Arrow bus within a day, but it failed to do so for the minibus taxi industry. We saw this with the B97 route. These taxis are being impounded day in, day out because the provincial government know that they do not possess operating licenses. Honorable Chairperson, maybe this is a strategy of the provincial government to not issue these licenses and rather make money through the tickets of these confiscations. Every other day, there are roadblocks targeting taxis, which prove that this is a deliberate strategy orchestrated by the provincial government to oppress this industry. We need this department to start taking this industry seriously. The subsidization of the mini bus taxi is possible, and the Blue Dot pilot has proven that very successfully. The province has 2.658 billion in its provincial reserve fund, and it can take from this reserve to fund the subsidization of this industry. The Safely Home Fund could also assist towards the taxi subsidization. We call for the provincial government to not dent the already built relationship with the minibus taxi industry and extend the pilot of the Blue Dot project through subsidization. The ANC therefore cannot support this budget. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you very much. I now recognize the EFF. Honorable Member Makamba Boja.
House Chair, thank you very much. As part of its public works or the public works function, this department must use this adjusted increase of more than 324 million to build more schools in this province. House Chair, as things stands, the province cannot accommodate learners in schools due to lack of facilities. It is high time we must do away of temporary classrooms as they have proved to be unsafe, as they can be easily swept away by winds during the winter season. This then becomes a danger to learners and staff in schools as well as members in the surrounding communities. When it comes to transport, there is an existing crisis regarding the issue of taxi permits. Our people spend a lot of time and money applying for operational taxi permits only to be granted by this department. This department continues to frustrate those who want to operate in the taxi industry by deliberately delaying in issuing them operating taxi permits. House Madam Chair, every day taxis are impounded by the government for operating without taxi permits, but it is the very same government that is causing them not to have those permits. The impounding of taxes by government is creating instability and chaos in our townships when taxi operators retaliate in order to get their taxes back. This put the lives of ordinary citizens and commuters at a serious risk. Madam Chair, the fines to release taxes when they are impounded by the DA-led government are shockingly high when compared to other provinces. And the reason behind this is just to make Black people to remain poor. House Madam Chair, we do not know why services similar to Bo George and my city are not made available in other municipalities. Madam Chair, for this reason, the EFF will not support this vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now recognize the good Honorable August.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Public transport systems in the Western Cape are heavily challenged. From the recent taxi strike, destruction to public transport vehicles, and the City of Cape Town's decision to decrease routes on the MyCity bus service proves that we are moving backwards with developing a system that could compete with private vehicle use. The constraints of this sector is borrowed over from an era that we are still suffering from. Inadequate provisions made for public transport systems in new infrastructure developments. The Blue Dot Taxi program is but one example of a hasty political decision that was taken to win over the loyalty of taxi drivers by this DA-led government, and it backfired sourly, with lives and livelihoods suffering the most because of a party that cannot plan to see past the next election. The taxi industry is responsible for 75% of our provincial haulage, with millions of commuters making use of their services. Instead of considering the calls for modernization in this industry, this government tried to pass the buck onto the National Department of Transport, and hell broke loose. I welcome the installation of cameras and
Honorable Member, you
golden
have
arrow buses in support in creating a safe transport environment for people in the province, as well as ask this government to investigate the
Honorable
transport
Member,
of school children and look into the legal way farm workers are transported.
Honorable Member,
across
your
the
time
province.
is up.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I now recognize Honorable Member Mackenzie.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Thank you, honorable members. Honorable House Chairperson, the Premier, Cabinet members, and honorable members of the House. Today we are debating the Western Cape Transport and Public Works Adjustment Budget against a backdrop of massive political uncertainty in this country. Honorable members, notwithstanding this uncertainty, particularly in the public transportation sector, there remains hope for the future. The budget of hope. A budget that will revive the transport and infrastructure industry in the Western Cape while create thousands of jobs. What is hope, honorable members? Today we have hope in the House. We have students, matriculants from Mitchell's Plain, and honorable House Chair, can you protect me, please? Today we have students. Honorable House Chairperson, can you protect me? And I'm happy the students can see for themselves what's happening. Honorable House Chairperson, these students here today are hope. They are hope today in this House. Next year, some of these students will be attending university, WorkCom, or pursuing other opportunities. Some of them will one day hold leadership position in this country and sit in this House and will learn from us how to behave. What they're seeing today is the conduct of members and ourselves, and I hope they take away from them how they must behave when they go home, how they must behave in Mitchell's Plain and Langa, because they are one day will be the future. I appreciate that you are here today, and I want to thank you that they're here today, Honorable House Chairperson, because these matriculants are indeed our future. So welcome, Honorable matriculants. Honorable member of the 70, one of the problems is, honorable members, people don't read. It's a serious problem in this country. On the 17th of May, the Premier published in the ATC, including in emails, in written documents, the assigning of powers to executive authorities. We are now on the 2nd of December. 7 months later, members question why Minister Summers is delivering this. Secondly, Honorable House Chairperson, in this book, it was delivered to all members of the House, published on the 31st of August. 3 months later, we're now in December. If they read this book, it says here, signed here by Minister Summers as the executive authority. The second book, Honorable House Chairperson, also signed by Minister Summers, the executive authority. It is in this book, written, emailed, published in the ATC. It's a problem we have in this country that people don't read. Honorable Summers was in the House.
Honorable Member Mackenzie, take your...
Is this part of debate now?
Honorable Member, I recognize you.
Thank you very much.
Member, are you raising one point of order?
I'm raising a point where.
Are you raising one point of order?
No, I'm raising to ask you, as our chair, whether you can ask the MEC almost got a promotion, Honourable Mackenzie, if he's prepared to take a question.
Okay, you may sit down. You may sit down. I'll ask him. Thank you very much. Honourable Member, are you prepared to take a question?
No, thank you. I don't want to take a chairperson.
Okay, you may continue.
Honourable House Chairperson, Honorable House Chairperson, the honourable members were in the Budget Committee. That's why Honourable Vimbi, who's online, he was in the Transport Committee when the Executive Authority delivered the budget vote. He delivered the state. That's why the Honourable Vimbi did not raise what his members were raising, because he knows what's happening. He must brief his members in his caucus. Honourable members, as we approach the festive season, and while it can be very joyful, it can also be tragic. We are aware that many people will come to the Western Cape to enjoy our lovely vacation attractions. We want them to experience our exquisite wine estates, our Gatsby's, our Cook Sisters, our Cape Malaikari. We appreciate their attendance, but we ask them to enjoy and drive responsibly. So we welcome the 20 million rand as allocated and rolled over by our colleague Minister Tertia Simmers for the next financial year to assist with the Red Dot Transformation Initiative, with, by the way, current President Cyril Ramaphosa promised to fund more than 3 years ago. Just like the Blue Dot program, they have not funded it. Honourable members, the Blue Dot program, and indeed we agree with Honourable Mvimbi, the Blue Dot taxi program is indeed one of the best programs in this country. But as the Honourable member Mvumbi would know, the National Taxi Lekgotla in 2020, attended by President Ramaphosa himself, and he addressed that National Lekgotla himself, and I quote the president, the current president, we don't know where he's going to be tomorrow, but he said the following. He said to provide subsidy to the taxi industry is an integral part of the economic model aimed at ensuring long-term stability for the industry. This is President Ramaphosa. This is part of the commitments included from the National Taxi Lekgotla. Number 20, which is also Honourable Dagmo via you, House Chair. This is enshrined in Vision 2030, the National Planning Commission document of which Honourable Member Dagmo via you was a key provider in. So you should be disappointed, Honourable House Chairperson, that Minister Mbalula is not doing his job. We are, and I quote again, we are committed to putting measures and interventions aimed at influencing the economic variables within the industry value chain, including those aimed at alleviating the impact of high cost of finance. Commitment number 21, to the introduction of an electronic fare collection system to reduce the handling of cash. Close quote. This was commitment made 2 years ago, Honourable House Chairperson, at the National Taxi Lekgotla addressed by President Ramaphosa. Where are they today? Nowhere. We had to take more than 200 million rand of our own money to fund the Blue Dot program. Where's the money? Where's our members on the right-hand side? They were nowhere. Where are they asking President Ramaphosa give us the money? They are nowhere. Where are they asking them to fund the Blue Dot program? They are nowhere. We know the President hides money in the couch. They can give us the money. If the ANC had the political will and the true intention to professionalize the taxi industry, they would have done so, but they don't. Honourable members, if I take you further back to 1995, 1995, the National Task Team on Taxis was established in 1995. That was the last time they considered issues affecting the taxi violence. Where are they today? Nowhere. Nothing. Nix. Not one of the members on the right said anything about this. But the only program that's running very well in this country, and I have to give credit to the officials in the Department of Public Works, they deserve a hand of applause, Honourable Member, for coming up with a Blue Dot program. Because while the rest of the country was stealing, buying donkey carts, we developed a program called the Blue Dot program. There is the DA difference, Honourable Members of House. Honourable Members, we've seen recently the attacks on public infrastructure. And what I find quite sad is that a member of this House accused the government to ignoring barbarism and barbaric. What is barbaric is the silence of the ANC. A taxi was caught with 13 petrol bombs. 13, not one, not two, not three, 13 petrol bombs in. Not once has the members of the right-hand side said anything about it. Not once did the ANC release a statement, because 13 petrol bombs is domestic terrorism against people of this province, and we will not tolerate it. So the city of Cape Town has the absolute right to arrest individuals with petrol bombs in their car. But the ANC, for some bizarre reason, honourable members, was extremely quiet on this matter. With regards to permits, it's surprising. The members were in the standing committee. In the standing committee, there was not one outstanding permit for the taxi industry. Not one. There was a meeting with the taxi industry held in Yanga 2 months ago. Not one outstanding taxi permit by this government, because the Western Cape government delivers. And the second point the member raised, which is shocking, I must say, the member of the EFF, she said the fines are higher in the Western Cape than in any other province. Imagine that you commit a crime and then we said, okay, sorry, brother, let's give you a lower sentence. It is bizarre coming from a woman knowing the terrible crimes committed in this country. You can't say to someone, we're giving you a lower sentence because you're living in another province. If you commit a crime, you must be punished. That's the law. Finish and class. It is shocking. During the day of 16 days of members complain about the fine is this high, the fine is this high. Don't commit a crime. It is that simple. Be honest. Honourable House Chairperson,
Honourable
Member
Chairperson,
Dagmo earlier on again like yesterday, he alluded to something. He said between the Eastern Cape and the Northern Cape, people could travel. Brilliant point. Well done. Thank you for raising that. But what the Honourable Dagmo failed to inform this House, why can't people travel between the Eastern Cape and the Northern Capes on the trains, on the Eastern Capes? Why can't they, Honourable House members? They can't because the trains are not working. They can't because 150 buses on the Intercape. So the reason they can't is because the ANC collapsed the trains. The ANC collapsed the security cluster, allowing 150 attacks on buses. It is terrible, it is unacceptable, it will never be okay in this province. The DA fully supports, the DA in this House supports the budget vote of 9.4 billion rand. It's the right thing to do. We'll continue to invest in this province. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mackenzie. Members, can we settle down? Honorable members, I now recognize Minister Simmons. Honorable Member Maran. Honorable Member Maran.
Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Member Mackenzie. Honorable Member Maran. You can move out and have that conversation as we continue with the business of the House. I recognize Minister Simmons.
House Chairperson, there is a hand online.
Honorable Chairperson.
Sorry, Minister. I recognize Honorable Member Mvimbi.
Yes, Honorable Chairperson, my hand has been up actually even by the time Honorable Mackenzie was making his statement.
Honorable Member, you are not audible.
He mentioned
you. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now, Honorable Chair?
Try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you. You can continue. Honorable Member,
there is a statement that Honorable Mackenzie has raised that seems to be casting aspersion to the Honorable Makamba Mboja, saying that he is actually Honorable Makamba Mboja being a woman. And I don't know whether she's raising it to her because she's a woman or if it's actually...
It's a... Honorable Member Makamba Mboja, I recognize you.
No, House Chairperson, thank you very much. I think this House is actually degenerating lately. Why are we always subjected in this kind of treatment by the DA? However, we've been raising our hands on the hybrid, and no one is recognizing it. And the House is continuing as normal as if we do not exist in this. So my point of order doesn't even. It's actually null and void because the person who was on the podium is no longer speaking.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable members, don't make it difficult for the chairperson because this is a political debate. So try to work with the chair, not to give a template of what to be said, what not to be said, because it's not up to the chair to give direction of what is it that needs to be said when there is a political debate. So help me.
Our hands, Chairperson, must be recognized. When we raise our hand on the hybrid, we must be recognized. Likewise with the people
member, you cannot interject. That is why you've got an option of being in the House so that we can continue having that point of order. But while I'm still talking to your point of order, there's no point of order of the point of order. So you're going to allow the chair to continue. And there are some hands that are raised in the House. I recognize you. You had your chance. Honorable Chief Whip of the Opposition, I recognize you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, an order was raised by Honorable Mvimbi saying Honorable Mackenzie has casted an aspersion on Honorable Makamba Boja. And I'm wanting to implore you to rule on that matter because it's a serious one. We are a non-sexist society, and as such, we should be accepting the LGBTQI if it exists. Now, such a statement is insulting, and it cannot be said in this democratic house, Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Member, I heard Honorable Member Mvimbi, and I did not pick that up. So I will come back. I'm going to ask the table staff to assist me because I didn't hear when that was said, and then I'll come back to the House on that after I got the table staff if they had that. So, Honorable Member Mackenzie, I hope after I ruled on that, like I said, now we are not going to talk to what I've just ruled on. Thank you very much. Minister, I recognize you.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. House Chair, first and foremost, I welcome all the comments made by all the political parties. I take note. I also note that the two key issues which the majority of the parties did flag pertains to matters that I believe my colleague, Minister Mitchell, has actually answered in this House or in written format. So as such, I will not regurgitate what my colleague has responded over the last few weeks. Honourable House Chair, I think given that the House Chair, or the Standing Committee Chairperson has invited matriculants from Mitchell's Plain, I think it's quite eloquent that I believe, they impart from this House with some words as to put them on their life's journey, which they are about to begin. And through you, House Chairperson, to the members in the gallery, I would love to just close them with a quote of Michael Jordan, which you earlier couldn't hear due to the noise in the House. But I think it's quite fitting for your life journey is about to begin post grade 12. And he said, obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, don't turn around and give up. Figure out how to climb it, go through it, or work around it, close quote, because you come from an area which is faced with so many social challenges. Yet out of despair, through your House Chairperson, one can find hope. Hope through a government that creates opportunities for all its people. Madam House Chair, at this juncture, I would really like to thank, in his absence, the Standing Committee Chairperson and the members of the Standing Committee for a sterling job that they've done in the oversight over myself, but also over my colleague, Minister Mitchell. But I'd also love to thank each and every official in the Department of Transport and Public Works for the hard work that they've put into this year to ensure that we continue to deliver quality and reliable infrastructure to our citizens. But, as I stated in my speech, Honourable House Chair, this department also received a 10th consecutive clean audit status, which is no easy feat, given that they're the only provincial department of its nature to have done this. And it speaks to proper and sound collective leadership. But it's very seldom I single out a member of a group that's part of that leadership. But I would really have to convey a special thank you to our CFO who's present here, Advocate Smith, who ensured that even while she was going through difficult health challenges, she stayed committed to ensure that this department received a clean bill of health for the 10th consecutive time. And I want this House to note that she did that. So, Honourable House Chair, in conclusion, to all the members in the House, on behalf of Vote 10, on behalf of the department, I do want to wish you all time to rest well and spend time with your loved ones, but also to the HOD and the team, because 2023 is going to be a very interesting year as we now migrate from Transport and Public Works to the Department of Infrastructure to ensure that the department, which was based on excellence, goes beyond that and even more, because they have a sound history of doing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. That concludes the debate on this vote. The Secretary will read the 7th order of the day.
Debate on vote 13, Cultural Affairs and Sport, Western Cape Appropriation Bill B3 2022.
I now recognize Minister Mare.
I will start again. House Chair, as we near the end of 2022, we can see the positive signs of recovery after the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Over the past year, we have seen the return of live audiences in our theatres and spectators at our sporting events. This has brought a much-needed boost not only to the economy, but to the mental and physical well-being of the people of the Western Cape. As I now present the adjusted estimates budget for the 22-23 financial year, I'll wholeheartedly thank each and every one of the Department of Culture Affairs and Sport team for the spirit in which we tackled this year. It was a year of rebuilding and recovery, and we did this by rolling out our programs, many of which were suspended during the pandemic. Led by our head of department, Mr. Guy Redmond, we continued meeting our mandates. With a budget increase of 554,000 from approximately 937.9 million to 938.4 million, we take our leading role in well-being serious, and we committed to working innovatively to ensure that we can continue to deliver our important services to our communities. We are very excited to see the increase of sporting events happening in our province, and we are grateful to have received 3 million from the Department of Economic Development and Tourism and 2 million from provincial funding to be able to support the Formula E World Championship, which will take place in Cape Town for the first time in February 2023. We have been focusing on keeping our youth safe and positively engaged in a period after formal school hours. We have received 950,000 from the Department of the Premier for the Shukuma Year Beyond program, a high school program to enhance well-being and safety at schools using unemployed youth as facilitators. The program is offered in the Cape Metro and Cape Winelands in 46 schools. It provides a first work opportunity to 189 youth. An amount of 2.7 million was received from the Department of Education for the purpose of furthering the rollout of the Western Cape Education at Home Learning Year Beyond program. This program works in 18 community hubs with 51 schools, providing support for 3,000 at-risk learners, homework support, parental workshops, and fun after-school activities in parks and community facilities in targeted communities. At the same time, it has provided a first work opportunity to 322 youth. We have sadly seen that the Philippi Stadium has been vandalized to such an extent that it cannot be used to host any football matches or other events. To this end, 3.9 million has been realigned in the Provincial Revenue Fund to contribute towards the repairs required at the stadium. The department received 4.5 million in lieu of a rollover application of committed funds for goods not delivered by end of 2021-22 financial year. The rollover mainly related to the impact of COVID-19 on the global supply chains in the related industries, which affected the delivery of the goods procured. I now take this opportunity to thank all our stakeholders, partners and Cabinet colleagues for helping us improve sport and culture affairs in the Western Cape by sharing experiences and new ways of thinking and doing in service of all those who call the province home. We express our gratitude for the collaborative efforts to enable a safer sporting environment, creating a culture more representative of our population with policies developed to safeguard, protect and uplift the often marginalized. We appreciate the Standing Committee and our Chairperson member, Gillian Bosman, for holding us accountable in their oversight role as together we work towards a socially inclusive active and connected Western Cape. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. The next speaker is Honourable Kama. No conversing allowed. There's a new chair. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chair, if the kids or the school kids that were in the gallery were not brought here to just watch Member Mackenzie debating, they would have been very shocked at the claims that the MEC is making. In actual fact, they would have felt well represented when I debate. I think, Chair, let me start by noting and congratulate Stéphanie Frepart from France, Nouza Beck, and Karen Diaz, who were the first women to be match officials of a men's soccer World Cup yesterday. The ANC rejects this budget vote because we are realizing that this government does not realize the importance of this department in fighting many social ills and advocating for many programs like that of the emancipation of women through sports. And if that was the case, it would have been reflected in this budget. The people of the Western Cape are misled to believe that the department's budget has been adjusted and increased by over 554,000, whereas in reality, 3.9 million of the much needed funds have been shifted out of the department. Such decisions impede the department from realizing its full potential in fulfilling the vision-inspired priorities, VIP 1 of inclusive communities and VIP 3 of empowering people. The HOD and senior management are on record saying that they would love this department's budget to be increased to at least over R1 billion. The MEC herself vowed to go to the Treasury to request additional funding for the case for sport. And to our disappointment, not only has the MEC failed to act on this commitment, but her department continues to show disregard, disrespect, and disdain for sport as proved by the budget cuts in this budget. The budget for sport is reduced from 69 million rand to 67 million rand. Over and above this, the budget for school sport and the MOD program has also been reduced. This disregard for sports does not only end with the reduced budgets. Sports federations in the province, and especially the South African Football Association, continues to be undermined by the MEC and this department. A case in point in this department's is the department's meeting with the United Coalition of Sports and Community-Based Organization yesterday, which was meant to discuss the capture of sport by the department. It is highly disappointing that the department sent junior officials to the meeting. The highest ranking official in sport was deputy director. There was no HOD, no chief director, and no directors at all. The constituency of SAFA alone, House Chair, has 86,000 members in the metro, which are young people, and have about 150,000 members provincially, and yet it is treated with such disrespect. Honorable Barnes, before me, was so passionate about the issue of sport infrastructure that is falling apart across municipalities. We will continue to drive this issue until the MEC and the department start to take it seriously. It is disappointing that the 3.9 million rand for the repairs of the Philippi Stadium is still not spent and sent to the Provincial Revenue Fund. Honorable House Chair, along with sport, youth development is another casualty. Every time we pose questions in this parliament about the challenge of social ills in the province and how the safety plan will address these challenges, whether we ask the social development about drugs and substance abuse or to community safety about youth gangs, all fingers always point to the MEC Marais department. Having gone through this department's budget, it is highly disappointing that youth development is not prioritized. The ANC raised its concerns about this in the committee, and we were shocked to learn that the transversal youth development initiatives are handled by a junior youth services director in the department. Youth unemployment initiatives should go far beyond the year beyond program and EPWP jobs. As the ANC were advocating for the department's youth services office to be expanded into a full directorate for youth with a sufficient budget, and for every department in the province to have at least a director for youth development projects. The challenge of social ills, including high youth participation in gangs, drugs, and violent crimes, is as a result of this province's lack of prioritization of youth development, not the police. MEC, in March, when you acted in the position of former MEC Fritz, you promised to create opportunities for the 1,000 safety ambassadors that were fired from the Department of Community Safety. To this day, only 50 of those were recruited, and over 900 are roaming in the streets and may be recruited into gangs. Honorable House Chair, it is gravely concerning that the department's compensation of employees' budget has been reduced by over 1 million rand, while there are over 900 youth that the department knows about that are jobless because of the DA government in the province. The fallacy of a government for jobs is getting exposed and crumbling. This provincial government, through these unsustainable projects, is killing jobs. As expected, the budget for archive services is reduced. We suspect that the department does not take this program seriously, hence its budget is always cut. However, we welcome the budget increase for the overall budget increases for library services. Our demands are clear. No library must be closed down in the province. Should the MEC fail to stop municipalities like the City of Cape Town from closing down libraries, we'll take this as a declaration of war, and will be more than happy and prepared to meet her in the battlefield. We note the 8.6 million rand shifted to the Premier's department. The same Premier's department has failed to ensure that all rural libraries are connected to the internet through the provincial broadband rollout. This amount must ensure that all rural libraries have internet access and are fully furnished. In closing, Honorable House Chair, I must thank my organization for deploying me into this portfolio. Would like to state up front that I look forward to a cordial relationship with the MEC. This is not to be construed, however, as asking for a friendship. I will not be friends with an MEC when her department has failed to ensure the respect, for example, of Ulaluko, the cultural rite of passage practiced by several cultures in the province, including AmaXhosa, AmaHlubi, and Sutus. What the Stellenbosch municipality and that organization of white people are doing there is serious provocation. The MEC must ensure that this does not happen again. I also want to call on you to put pressure on MEC Bredel to accelerate the implementation of the Traditional and Khoisan Leadership Act in the province. MEC, many young people do not believe that or do not have confidence that you are going to be able to lead them in this portfolio. They believe that you are too old for the portfolio. Certain degree, I agree with them and hope that you can prove them wrong through showing more passion for sports, arts, and culture. For the above reasons, House Chair, the ANC finds it very impossible to support this budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Kama. Next up is the Honorable Makamba Botja, who is joining us online.
House Chairperson, thank you very much. The EFF is very disappointed to see that the budget of the department is only increased by mere 554,000. This is the department that should strive for inclusivity in sport. However, the reality on the ground is quite the opposite. Honorable House Chair, there are no sporting facilities in most townships in the province. This is also the case when it comes to township schools. Without these facilities, it is impossible to participate in different sporting codes. This kind of social exclusion must be condemned. House Chair, every year when these issues are raised in the House, we are often told about lack of available spaces in townships to build the required infrastructure. The structural landscape of colonialism still persists to this day. Black and poor people are located far away from areas with good sporting facilities, resources. The very same provincial government is not doing much when it comes to responding to issues of spatial planning and making sure that new developments are included, do include sporting facilities adjacent to them. On that note, Honorable House Chair, the EFF does not support this vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kamba Botja. The next on the list is the Honorable Murray, but I do not see you online, sir. Honorable Murray. Pass. Which brings us to the Honorable Bosman.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson, and good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to our colleagues on the right-hand side, and a very warm welcome to Honourable Kama, the new shadow MEC for Cultural Affairs and Sports. We sincerely hope you enjoy your time with us. We know you haven't been able to make it to that many meetings, but we do understand there is a World Cup on, and you are very passionate about sports.
Honourable Bosman. Honourable Maran.
Honourable Bosman or Honourable Partman?
Honourable Bosman, just please take your seat. Honourable Maran, according to the rules, there is no conversing allowed in this house. No conversation. Thank you. I heard you, Honourable Maran. Don't disrespect the chair. I don't want to invoke that rule. Thank you. Thank you. Last warning, and Honourable Lekker. Please respect the chair in terms of Rule 45. Thank you. Thank you. Not yet. Last warning. Correct. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Lekker. Please, Honourable Rule. Honourable Lekker. Honourable Mukamba, Honourable Nosibu, please. You're not supposed to. If a member is in contempt or disregarding the authority of the chair, or if that member's conduct is grossly disorderly, the presiding officer may order the member to withdraw immediately from the precincts of the Provincial Parliament for the remainder of that day. Thank you. Thank you. Honourable Lekker. Honourable Lekker, your point of order.
On you, Chair.
A point of order, Honourable. Yes. Thank you. The Honourable Lekker.
Thank you,
You
Chair.
recognized?
Chair, I would like to bring to your attention
Yes.
that intimidating members
Yes.
and threatening members reading the rules incorrectly and applying those rules incorrectly so is also a treacherous crime.
Thank you.
So if you do so, Chair, we
Yes.
will meet you wherever you want us to meet. We'll go to the conduct committee with you as well.
Thank you, Honourable Lekker. I believe that you are at this time grossly disorderly, and I therefore order you to withdraw from the House. Thank you. It works like.
What is this now?
Thank you. Thank you, honourable members. The House is suspended for a minute to allow the member just to withdraw.
It's not going to happen.
Please, table staff, please assist the member. Table staff, please assist the member to withdraw. The House is suspended.
Chair, this is not your house. We are not in a dictatorship.
Can we please just ask that the video feed be cut off? The House is suspended for a minute to allow the member.
You will not leave. You cannot just dictate here. Learn from the Deputy Speaker how she was chairing today. You are bringing the House into disrepute.
Must be changed. in actual fact, you are not going to continue.
To withdraw, as you were challenging and disregarding the authority of the chair before we suspended proceedings. Will you please withdraw? Will you please withdraw? Will you only answer yes or no? It's not a debate.
Staff not to take the position that you have taken right now.
I'm not going to be drawn, but the answer is
Chairperson,
no. I did not
Did
get that.
you get the advice
Point of
from
order,
the
Chair.
tabling staff
Thank you,
not
Honourable
to
Member.
rule on what you have ruled on?
I'm now invoking
You are the chairperson of the
Rule
House, and there's a tabling staff that
46(1).
must advise you.
I'm busy with the first point of order here. If a presiding officer is of the opinion that the member's conduct is of such a serious nature that in order to withdraw from the sitting, either from the chamber or electronic platform, for the remainder of the day sitting is inadequate, the presiding officer may name that member. Honourable
Chairperson, on a point of order.
Lekker, I am naming you. Can we first deal just with this point? Honourable Sayed, I'm warning you as well. Thank you, Honourable.
Chairperson, on a point of order.
Honourable Sayed, please
Point of order,
withdraw.
Chairperson.
Please withdraw. Honourable Sayed, please withdraw. Thank you. Thank you. Please, honourable members, I've made a ruling. We must first deal with this point of order and then we'll go to the next. Honourable Lekker, Rule 46 has been invoked. Please. Thank you, Honourable Lekker. I'm waiting for you. Thank you, Honourable Sayed. Honourable Sayed, please. Thank you, honourable members. Please obey and respect the chair as per our rules. No. Thank you. Thank you, honourable members. The House will be suspended again just to allow for these members the opportunity to withdraw from the House. Thank you, Honourable Lekker. Thank you.
Until your webs. Until your webs realize. Yeah.
Have observed, we have had a discussion amongst the whips and myself, and we've come to a very collegial agreement. I am retracting my decisions on rules 45 and 46, and we have an undertaking that we will all be concentrating on the business of the House, that we will be maintaining the decorum for the House for the remainder of the day. We all realize that it's been a very long and tiring day and year, and therefore, honourable members, we are to proceed with the business of the day, and therefore also the last order of the day. Thank you very much for your patience, and I'm really glad that we were able to come to this agreement. Thank you very much, Honourable Bosman. You were on the floor. You're welcome to proceed with your speech.
For 24 seconds.
You still have 15 minutes and 15 seconds. You're quite right.
So you've taken 1 minute away and they're punished. Chairperson, as I was saying before, I was interrupted. The technology has also decided that we need to end. We've been here too long. The Honourable Kama is a new addition to Cultural Affairs and Sports. So we want to also inform him that today is Friday. And Fridays in the Cultural Affairs and Sports Committee and across the Western Cape is Netball Friday. And we look forward to the chairperson allowing us at our next sitting on a Friday to wear those netball t-shirts. I was scared to wear mine because the leader of the opposition normally calls us out when we're not wearing ties or buttoned up shirts. Remember, Dagmo was very particular about that. So I decided it's best to dress appropriately for the leader of the opposition. Chairperson, the Western Cape is fortunate to be hosting the Netball World Cup 2023, and that event is testimony to the work done by this department, because the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports plays a critical role in the well-being of the people of this province. They encourage excellence and inclusivity. They safeguard the interests of our talented artists and sports people, and their work unites people through sport and culture to ensure a creative, active, and prosperous Western Cape. Chairperson, the funds appropriated in this budget will go a long way in binding our communities together and building a strong and unified nation. And I want to thank Minister Murray for launching the first rule book of the boxing sport in isiXhosa this last Wednesday, because that goes a long way in binding our communities together. Chairperson, this week as well provides a perfect example of this department in action. This week, the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports, in partnership with international organizations such as the British Council, hosted the 8th Arts Ability Festival at the Artscape Theatre, the African continent's premier festival led by differently abled performers. Arts Ability seeks to not only provide an inclusive space for artists experiencing disability to express themselves, but also to mobilize their work to walk toward greater inclusion and transformation in the arts sector. Bringing to life the work of this department in an amazing performance that we saw last Tuesday.
Just get all the microphones muted. There seems to be an echo.
It seems to happen when I speak. I tend to disrupt the house without even saying anything. As I said, Chairperson, this performance that we saw on Wednesday night at the Artscape Theatre launching the Arts Ability Festival brought together the work of this amazing department through the performance, showcasing the joint collaborative performance of an opera written by internationally renowned composer Paola Prestini. It incorporated not just dance and opera, but it had a partnership that saw the Artscape Associated Unmute Dance Company working in collaboration with international partners Sensorium X from New York and Diversity in Dance from the United Kingdom to create what was truly a magical experience. I encourage all members, like I invited all members in Monday's meeting, to attend the Arts Ability Festival, which closes today. Hopefully, if we get out of here in time, Member Kama can still catch some of those performances, because the member acting for him on Monday probably didn't mention that that invitation was extended. This adjustment budget lends further support to projects like this one by providing an increase of more than 554,000 Rand, or a 0.6% increase to the main budget. I believe that this department should receive more funding, but we must acknowledge the stark reality that we face in this country, with the equitable share continually decreasing, and in this budget, decreasing by over 574 million in the main budget. This is in line with what we already know. The Western Cape always gets far too little of the national equitable share. But, Honourable House Chairperson, the Western Cape has once again come to the rescue to fill the gaps left by our flailing national government. This province has provided additional funding through financing from the Provincial Revenue Fund to supplement some of the gaps left by our failing and flailing national government. House Chairperson, with all this doom and gloom, I'm still encouraged by this department because they continually demonstrate the ability to innovate and to do more with less. Despite a decline in funding to library services and archives, this department continues to deliver these vital resources to our people wherever they find themselves. As the Cluster A committee members who are present will attest, we saw a beautiful, functionally built library at the New Horizons Library in Plettenberg Bay, that being one of 6 libraries in the Bito municipality. It's a library that's led by not just innovative staff members, but also a library that shows collaboration by working with the municipality and working with the Department of the Premier. I'm sorry, Chairperson, is that a question?
Honourable Dugmore, please. Honourable Dugmore.
I know that you will deal with the Leader of the Opposition quite firmly, so I do ask for your protection. As I was saying, House Chairperson, the New Horizons Library showcases a partnership between the Department of the Premier through the Cape Access Centre being integrated into the main function of the library. When we were there, we were shown around the library, the Access Centre, but we were also told about the support that staff at that library gets from the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports. And we know that they will now be launching a robotics lab with further support from this department. What they also told us is that they've appointed 13 Yeboniers, and I was very delighted to hear that Yeboniers are young people who form part of the Year Beyond program that affords youth aged 18 to 25 employment and learning opportunities. Collectively, our libraries have 19,701 active members in the Plettenberg Bay area, a number that is rapidly growing as people return to libraries after COVID. When we vote on this budget today, I would encourage all members present here to think about the nearly 20,000 people who now have access to a world of knowledge through the efforts of this department. Think of the performers on stage at the Artscape, at the Eon, at the Fugard Theatre, at the Baxter Theatre, at theatres in our communities like the Kaka and Ka Festival, like the Real Dance Festival, and think about how these people are working hard towards inclusivity and accessibility, and ask yourself, what more can we do to support their work, to create an accessible and an inclusive province in the Western Cape? I encourage all members to think about the heritage which is being preserved by this department, that is being protected to ensure that our young people are able to access that, like we saw in how this department is trying to assist Robben Island as well. This is a good example of how this department has an integrated approach to youth development. The integrated provincial youth development strategy that is housed in this department gives young people a seat at the table, and it doesn't set a separate table for young people like you want us to do, Member Kama, through you, Honourable House Chairperson. Honourable House Chairperson, as a fairly new chairperson to this portfolio, I want to say a very special thank you to the members of this committee for welcoming me back to the Cluster A, because they've shown me that we can work collaboratively and we can refocus our oversight model to ensure that cultural affairs and sports successes are highlighted as we do oversight. I want to thank all the members, not just for their support in the committee meetings, but also for engaging and bringing issues. And I hope through you, House Chairperson, that the Honourable Kama will be as excited as Member Barnes when she sent through her list of what the committee is going to do. I hope that there will be some space for your ideas as well, because we're very busy up until the end of the year. I want to thank Chairperson, the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports, because it's one department where every time through the Minister, we get immediate feedback on issues that were raised. This department is ably led by a young, energetic, vibrant Minister who can take anybody on, whether it's in a boxing ring or whether it's on a stage. Thank you, Minister Murray, for your on-the-ground active leadership in this vital portfolio. A very special thank you, Chairperson, goes to Mr. Wasim Matthews and Mr. Bendaza for their commitment to excellence and for ensuring that we are always able to do our work, even when we don't get lamb shanks. We are grateful. We are very grateful for their work. Honourable House Chairperson, like I said earlier, we welcome Honourable Kama as the new shadow MEC for Cultural Affairs and Sports. We know that he will use not just his knowledge of soccer, but also he will use some of his community safety experience to ensure that the young people in this province, that the old people in this province, and that the in-betweeners receive cultural affairs and sports facilities that are fit for them. We know that when he joins us for the Provincial Parliamentary Netball Tournament at Leeuwenhof, he will go up against our Minister, or he will send the Leader of the Official Opposition to participate in that game. House Chairperson, it goes without saying that I support Vote 13 in its entirety, and I hope that all members of this House will join us as members of the committee in thanking me not just to the department, but in thanking all the civil servants for their hard work throughout this year. Because it is the officials in the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports that revived cultural affairs and sports after we came back from COVID. With that said, the Democratic Alliance fully supports this vote, and we fully support the hard-working men and women in the arts, culture, sports, and heritage sector. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Bosman, which brings us back to Minister Murray. Your microphone, Honourable Murray.
Thank you. Member Kama, I just want to say at least you will be able to understand the boxing rules when we get into the ring. So, ek wil net sê baie dankie vir elkeen se bydrae en vir julle passie vir die sport en kultuursektor. Even though some comments, I take note of all the comments, even though some are negative, but we take note, and we will really, the big thing for our departments, we really don't have all the money, but we do what we can with what we have. And I must say thank you for the standing committee, for your role, for our chairperson, your passion. Dis regtig 'n riem onder die hart. Dankie vir wat jy self doen en die nuwe dimensie wat jy bring aan die komitee. Then I also want to say, you know, our department or in the Western Cape, we work very hard and diligently to ensure a safe rite of passage to all our initiates. And we did give a report back to Member Pat Lekker. Maybe she can just hand it over to you as well, or you can have a discussion. And we're very proud that we don't have any deaths in the province, and that our initiation forums are very, we speak regularly. We had a national initiation forum here yesterday afternoon, and for a fact-finding mission. And at this moment, they're very happy. And I really wish everyone well for the rest of this initiation season. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, honourable members. Thank you, honourable minister. That concludes the debate on this vote. The secretary will now read the 8th and last order of the day.
Vote 2, Provincial Parliament, Western Cape Adjustments, Appropriation Bill.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chair, Ministers, members and guests, and to my opposition on the benches as well as online. It is my pleasure to participate in the debate on Vote 2, Provincial Parliament. I stand here today as the Deputy Speaker of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament in terms of Rule 26 and not as the executive authority of this vote. The Western Cape's main budget of $176,502,000 was supplemented with rollovers of $10,323,000 and a revenue retention of $350,000 from the previous financial year, leaving the Western Cape Provincial Parliament with an adjusted appropriation of $187,175,000 rand. The rollover of the 2021-22 financial year was mainly allocated as follows. Program 1, Governance, Leadership and Administration of $5.129 million, rollover from the previous financial year to cover for committed projects which were not completed in the 2021-22 and priority projects identified. Program 2, 1.847 million to supplement the Standing Committee budget. Program 3, Public Engagement of 3.237 million rolled over from the previous financial year to cover for committed projects which were not yet completed in 2021-22 and priority projects identified. Program 4, Member Support of 110,000 Rand rolled over from the previous financial year to provide for members' travel to WCPP events. Major shifts include the provision of 2.559 million for basement shelving and partitioning 4th and 6th floors, legal fees, life insurance, online subscriptions, computer services, PEO workshops and members' second dwelling. 268,000 provision for early retirement due to ill health of a staff member and leave gratuity payouts, and 2.412 million for closed circuit television, wave readers and laptop refreshing. I'd like to take this opportunity, Honourable House Chair, to thank the POC for their thorough engagements during the year and the frankness in which we could conduct our business. A special word of thanks is also extended to Minister Wenger and her team of finance specialists for our fruitful engagements and their appreciation for the peculiar needs of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. I would also like to place on record my appreciation for the work done by the Secretary to the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, Mr. Romeo Adams, and his administration for the exceptional support given to us, not only as at a Speaker's level and Speaker's office level, but really to the entire administration. They've really had to pivot, adjust, and be resilient with all the constant changes. On a special note, I would like to publicly thank the staff in the office of the Speaker for the work that they have done diligently over the 3 years and for their dedication to the Speaker's office. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. The next speaker is the Honourable Lekker. Honourable Said, point of order.
Yes, Chair, just for noting, I don't want to be, I just want to place on record on behalf of the African National Congress, we just want to place on record that Rule 26, we don't want disruptions, we can continue. Rule 26, quoted by the Honourable Deputy Speaker, does not apply because there is no speaker currently. Thank you.
Thank you. Noted. Honourable Lekker.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I would like to point out that the African National Congress has really, with pain, endured a process where there has been instability in the House. And going forward, would like to place on record that as members of this House, we all had a responsibility of ensuring that the decorum of the House stays as it is. However, as and when we tend to ignore the rules that govern this House, we are bound to have instability. Now, Chairperson, allow me to say that the ANC must rise today and reject this budget vote, while also stating what is supposed to be the obvious. We have a provincial parliament with no speaker. It is therefore an anomaly that this budget is introduced by the Deputy Speaker. The Deputy Speaker, in terms of Section 13 of the Financial Management of Parliament Act, is not the executive authority of Parliament and should not be sponsoring this budget. Knowing full well that the DA thinks nothing of using taxpayers' money to fund their legal battles and defend corrupt DA councillors like the one in the city of Cape Town, the ANC wishes to place on record the maladministration that is currently taking place in this parliament. We are voting on a budget vote of an institution that has no executive authority. This is against the law. But so much for the DA respecting the rule of law. As the Honorable Dagmore pointed out yesterday, the provincial constitution is clear. The provincial parliament must elect a speaker from amongst its members and at the first sitting after its election, or when necessary to fill a vacancy. In terms of the Financial Management of Parliament Act, Section 6, subsection 2, is clear that the Secretary of Parliament is accountable to the executive authority. It would therefore be appropriate to ask who is the Secretary now accountable to, if he is running the show. We find it completely unacceptable that the accounting officer himself would agree to such maladministration. Be that as it may, Chairperson, the ANC wishes to take this opportunity to state emphatically and express our thanks to the loyal and committed non-partisan members of staff of this legislature. We acknowledge the men and women who work tirelessly to ensure the proper functioning of this parliament. However, we are not blind to the DA cadres who are also deployed to the membership of staff of this legislature. We know people like Unati Lasiti are appointed here as staff while still be DA operatives in this legislature. Yet the staff of this parliament must also know that the DA whose members are falsely, nicely to them, underspent over 4 million in compensation of employment. The staff of this institution must know that the DA-led parliament refuses to fill vacancies. The ANC has been consistent in complaining about the amount of funds received by the governance and administration program. While we note the 10 million in the budget of WCPP, more than half of that increase goes again into the governance and administration program. Notwithstanding that ICT is covered in this program, but as with most budgets, the devil is lost in the detail. If we remember, one of the main criticisms of the main appropriation in March, April this year was the fact that this budget vote hardly allocates any funding or lack of funding, in particular to committee support. It seems our complaints and pleas have fallen on deaf ears. In fact, the ANC would want to venture to suggest the reason why the current MEC for Finance appropriated over 10 million in this adjusted appropriation to this legislature was because she was the chief whip of the DA then, and she knew the plight of this legislature in fighting for more funds for committees. Instead, over half of that adjusted appropriation is now falling into the black pit called Program 1, and no additional funds have been allocated to committees in this adjusted appropriation. The committees are the engine room of this legislature. 31,000 is simply carried over to anticipated travel costs. 77,000 is taken from underspending in COE to compensate staff accompanying us. Yet, nothing towards ensuring more oversight visits for committee activities. The ANC must also express its dissatisfaction of the use of taxpayers' money, 402,000 in total for the CCMA payout due to the lack of planning on the part of the parliamentary administration. Again, I wish to appeal to members of the DA. Do not allow factional fights in your party to compromise the running of this House. DA factional fights have prevented you from appointing a new chief whip. DA factional fights have seen you get rid of the Speaker of this House. DA factional fights have impacted on the business of this legislature. Protect democracy, it is fragile. The ANC cannot support this budget. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Lekker. The next speaker is the Honourable Makamba Botja, who will be joining online.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Andazi sifike nini kule vote ngoba asinaye uSpeaker. House Chair, I find it very strange that we are dealing with this vote, but then we do not have a Speaker. The Section 111 of South African Constitution makes it clear that at the first sitting of the House, members elected in this House must elect a Speaker. The Speaker must remain until he or she is removed from the House by the resolution of the House. House Chair, the rules and messages that there should always be a Speaker. When one is removed, then another one must be elected. House Chair, Rule 22.1 states that whenever necessary to elect a Speaker, the Secretary must inform the House accordingly. So now, since the DA did not have what it takes to remove the Speaker through proper constitutional channels, we find ourselves in a situation where necessity has kicked in for the Secretary to inform the House regarding the election of the Speaker. However, what is shocking is that the Secretary is not doing that. House Chair, it is now clear that no one follows the rules of this House anymore. People take instructions from the kitchen of Madam Helen Zille. House Chair, the Constitution of this country and the rules of this House do not permit for us to go this long way without the Speaker. We're currently in a train which we do not know where it's heading, as anyone can detect where this train must go. So on that note, House Chair, we are actually operating in an illegal sitting that is leaderless. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Makamba Botja. The next speaker is the Honourable Maseku.
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chair, I just want to assist a little bit before I start with my debate for informing the honorable members from the opposition that the Secretary has always been accountable to the House. It's not the DA, things our rules. And the second one that was mentioned on the standing rules, 26, it says, whenever the Speaker is absent or otherwise unable to perform the functions of the office of the Speaker, or whenever that office is vacant, the Deputy Speaker, or if there is no Deputy Speaker, a temporary presiding officer designated by the resolution of the House acts as presiding officer. I just said I'll contribute to give for free that info. But House Chair, I would like to start this speech today for this House to remember and celebrate the life and contributions of our dear late Chief Whip, Lorraine Botha. Lorraine was a phenomenal force within this chamber. She was quite dignified and strong in her leadership. Her dedication to serving the people of this province and her non-partisan approach continues to set an example for all of us. Lorraine's unwavering advocacy for the amplification of issues that impact the most vulnerable within this province will always serve as a source of inspiration to me and to all of us. This is because she demonstrated through her actions every day that our roles as members of this House went beyond day to day, and that our responsibilities are to ensure that oversight leads to real tangible change in people's lives. Honorable members, I call on you today to remember that legacy of Lorraine as we debate this vote and to engage and bring inputs that are ultimately for the betterment of this province and its people. House Chair, this evening we debate vote 2 of the adjustment appropriation budget. The Provincial Parliament received an additional allocation of more than 10.5 million over the medium-term budget period. This is a 6.5% increase in the 176.5 million main budget for the 2022-2023 financial year. While this adjusted allocation is welcomed, we must ensure that these funds are utilized in a manner that will maximize this House's ability to perform effective oversight in the interest of the residents and ensures maximum public participation in its processes. The Provincial Parliament's vision is to be regarded as a leading and exemplary legislature within South Africa and Southern African region. In order to achieve this, more still needs to be done to ensure that this Parliament works at its most efficient and effective to serve the best interest of the people of Western Cape. It is also at this point, House Chair, that I want to thank the staff of WCPP for their hard work and contributions as we labor to take this legislature from strength to strength. We acknowledge your support, guidance, and dedication. The adjusted allocations per program will see approximately 5 million towards governance and administration, 2.12 million towards parliamentary support services, 3.23 million towards public engagement, and 285,000 towards members' support. I want to focus particularly on the parliamentary support and public engagement programs. As members of this House, we have an important role as elected public representatives to ensure that we duly perform oversight of Western Cape Provincial Government and to represent our constituents in the workings of the Provincial Parliament and legislation tabled before it. So too does the WCPP have an important role in enabling an environment where the nuts and bolts of its operations run effectively to empower this legislature to become a true parliament of the people. Collectively, we must ensure that the voice of the people is heard here, in this House. I'm going to repeat that. Collectively, we must ensure that the voice of the people is heard in this House, especially when we deal with critical legislation which has a direct impact on their lives. This Provincial Parliament must simply do better in bringing Western Cape communities along during the deliberation and amendment of legislation. There has to be a concerted effort to ensure that as many residents as possible have an opportunity to give their input into the legislative process, be it in person, in writing, or via digital representations. I therefore note the efforts of the WCPP administration to get the ball rolling on the oversight and public participation front. Having already spent 46.17% of the 25.958 million adjusted budget for Program 2, Parliamentary Support Services with the WCPP's projected expenditure in the last 2 quarters of the 2022-2023 financial year will include, among others, public hearings and oversight visits, provision of standing committee meetings, the continuation of the Hansard translation and transcription services, filling of vacant posts, and payments for interpreting and sign language services. In terms of Program 3, public engagement, 41.42% of the 17.459 million adjusted budget for this program has been spent. During the second half of the 2022-2023 financial year, the projected expenditure for this program will include, among others, filling of vacant posts, provision of public education and outreach programs, and the finalization of the WCPP's digital online platform. The Parliamentary Oversight Committee has, throughout this sixth Parliament, deliberated at length the need for greater community outreach and oversight via committees, the need for greater public participation within legislative processes, and the necessity of a full staff complement to boost efficiency. This expenditure can therefore go a long way in addressing these concerns as the WCPP prepares for the new parliamentary year in 2023. During the various international study tours undertaken by the members this year, a number of crucial lessons were taken away in regard to strengthening parliamentary oversight and public engagement. For example, in an effort to optimize public participation, the Welsh Parliament established a body called the Citizens' Assembly. This body seeks to encourage engagement with the legislature through a strategically selected microcosm of their diverse constituencies. There were also important takeaways from the Scottish Parliament regarding the management of petitions via its digital program. And during the Australian study tour, we were once again reminded about the importance of parliaments engaging the public in decision-making, as well as practical guidance in understanding one's audience when engaging in their public participation. Now it is time to implement some of these lessons in order to create a more efficient provincial parliament. This will require buy-in, not just from the provincial parliament administration, but also from us as members from across the political divide. Honorable members, I think we can all agree that when we are divided, chaos and disruptions are the order of the day. But when we work together and cooperate, the work of this provincial parliament continues without interruption. In that breath, I would like to take this moment to commend the members of this committee for their cooperation and input. While we do not always agree, we should always endeavor to strive above petty political point scoring. And for the most part, this committee has always remained consistent in wanting the WCPP to be a world-class legislature with bite and who acts without fear or favor. Effective oversight requires political will from both government and all the political parties represented in this legislation. I want again to thank the staff of WCPP, those that we see and those who are in the offices that we don't see their faces, the leadership in the WCPP and secretary that always is there to advise when needed. And also to thank the Deputy Speaker for being here with us. It is with this in mind that I urge my colleagues from across the House to support the vote of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. I thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, honourable members. Order. 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 Honourable, you've had your opportunity. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson.
Just a moment. Please, honourable members, is that a point of order? What is your point of order, Honourable Maran?
Chair, is it parliamentary to say that the previous speaker was a tatinati? A tatinati.
Is it parliamentary language? Is that your question?
Yes.
It is.
Thank you. Parliamentary to...
Huh? Thank you. Please take your seat.
Tatinati.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, honourable members. Please, we've done well. We're at the last speaker, Honourable Maran. Thank you, Honorable Maran. Please. Thank you. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson. I wish to thank all members who've participated in this debate. I note all your contributions made by each and every one of you as members, your criticisms, your praise, and the oversight work that you do for this Parliament and for the people of this province. I thank you.
Thank you. Honourable members, that concludes the business for the day. The Secretary will end the meeting and all members will be exited from this sitting. The House is adjourned. Thank you. See you on Monday.